The corners of Xu Qian'an's mouth twitched, so it's so. So we're going to find out the real reason for Zhou Shilang's corruption and lewdness. We're going to solve the case so that Zhou Shilang has nothing to hide. Confess your sins. Xu Qian wanted to say this. Suddenly saw Xu Erlang's eyes that seemed to be smiling, and he did not say it. At this time, second Uncle Xu slapped his thigh, excitedly stood up, and said, I understood. So we're going to expose it. Let the surname Zhou have nothing to hide. He was excited. I felt like my brain was finally bright. One Xu Qian'an snorted, and his father felt it. With the identity of your royal sword for 100 households, you can be a dignified servant of the household department. You can contact the family members of the household department. Xu Dalong sighed and thanked the second uncle for his self-sacrifice. Scalding thunder for us. The second uncle went through a double blow. I don't think I'd better open my mouth. After a round of discussions, Xu Qian'an failed to suppress his cousin intellectually. Some dissatisfaction. Asked what the big brother thought he should do. Xu Qian pondered for a moment, spit out 4 words to drive the tiger and the wolf. The main force against Zhou Shilang is not us. We're going to do it. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. As for how, though, I haven't figured it out yet. Xu Qian'an's sweaty hands are not bad. Take a step back. We don't have to deal with Zhou Shilang, a dignified 3-grade member. Definitely have the heart muscle and wrist. It's not something we can deal with right now. But as long as it's human, there will be weaknesses. Xu Weifen's eyes lit up. Excitedly said. Xu Qian'an's eyes were as bright as the stars. A flash of cruelty. Yes, compared to Zhou Shilang. Zhou Li's gentleman is easier to deal with. The charges of impeachment are insufficient. Then we will create a crime. Give Zhou Xianping's main enemy a knife. Let them help us kill Zhou Xianping. It is imminent. If Zhou Shilang's son-in-law, something angry and resentful has been done. As a father, Zhou Xianping is to blame. The emperor is willing to protect. One time may not be willing to protect the second time. Speaking of which, Xu Qian'an's curse did not reach this entry point. Not bad, though. It's just that people aren't stupid. Blame setting may not work. Second Uncle Xu listened to his son and nephew, and I said a word. Suddenly I found myself the head of the family. Has been pushed to the brink of this secret talk. I can't talk about it at all. But with the son's layer-by-layer dissection, Second Uncle Xu's thinking is getting clearer and clearer. The more I think about it, the more I think it's possible. I couldn't help but slap the table excitedly. My son's mercy has the posture of a capital. Xu's wife was not happy when she heard this. Take the opportunity to diss the new year. How else to talk about the book and the country? Erlang, you can't escape the blame. The corners of Xu Erlang's mouth twitched. Anti-General Road, please give advice to the eldest brother. Xu Qian didn't panic at all. What we have to think about is not how to calculate Zhou Li. Instead, he went to observe Zhou Li, gather information about him, and then put it all together. Be bold in your plans. In a careful process of scrutiny, to judge the feasibility of the plan. Say goodbye to the old, and you have a reputation. I can get in touch with Taoist students. Use them to learn some information about officialdom. You go and collect Zhou Li's information again. Unavoidably. Don't make mistakes. The second uncle, Zhou Fu, was guarding the sword in the inner city. On weekdays, he is responsible for the night patrol of the inner and outer cities. You are responsible for monitoring the movements of the Zhou mansion. Don't do it yourself. Find a trusted henchman to keep an eye on. Where did Zhou Li go in a day? What was done? What people came into contact with? I want to know. Second Uncle Xu nodded confidently. Something suddenly came to mind. Staring at Xu Qian. What about you? Xu Qian smiled mysteriously. I want to find a way back for Xu's house. We'll discuss the details later. By the way, I'll ask you a little bit more. I'll stay in your house tonight. At midnight, Xu Qian'an quietly asked the eldest brother. Did you sleep? Xu Qian responded with a no. Just at this time, Brother Xu Qian'an said, "You've got me." Xu Qian was taken aback. "Yes. I also heard Xu New Year's say to collect your pork knuckle." Xu Qian hurriedly removed his hand. There was silence again. Listen to each other's breathing. Xu Qian asked, "How long have we not slept with him?" Xu Qian'an thought about it after he was 10 years old. "Since you spend 100 taels a year on martial arts. After the relationship with my mother was stiff. We're getting rusty." Xu Qian was embarrassed. "I thought you'd be arrogant. We have never slept with him." Xu Qian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Now we can sleep together. But Lin Yu's sister will never be possible. Aunt is in Xu Qian's heart. The status is actually not so bad. Tonight, Xu Qian and Xu Qian'an slept with him. I can't help but think of a lot of the past. Xu Qian sighed, but he didn't blame his aunt. I can't get any oil and water from the errand that I encountered. The second uncle worked hard and was angry. It's only more than 200 taels of silver a year. Half of it was fed to me. The other half is your expenses. It is inevitable that the aunt will have resentment in her heart. Xu Qian'an diverted the topic. If this crisis cannot be overcome, the Xu family may really be finished. Zhou Shilang can't fall if he can't do it. After Jingsha, it was the time when the disaster of Shufu came. Xu's wife sighed and said that I will arrange the way back. It's a big deal after Jingsha. Our family left the capital. My second uncle and I are very skilled. Don't worry about no way to survive anywhere. It's just that Erlang, you studied hard for 10 years before you were able to pass the exam. Xu Qian'an snorted. Fame and fortune are just a passing thing. I'm a reader. I read the books of the sages. It is the way of the sages. How can you care about fame? Xu Qian'an said with deep agreement. God does not give birth to me, Xu Qian'an. The wind is like a long night. The boat of friendship is capsized. Xu Qian'an rolled up the futon, and ran away. Then, no matter how Xu Qian'an called, he didn't care. Early the next morning, Xu Lingyue opened the window. Deliver the first rays of morning sunlight to the boudoir. She was enjoying the fresh air. Suddenly, I saw a figure passing by. By the window was Xu Qian. The brother and sister stared at each other silently through the window for a few seconds. Xu Qian's gaze subconsciously slid down. Xu Lingyue screamed. The windows were closed. Xu Qian was relieved to think that her sister had grown up. Although I didn't bring it up by myself. But I grew up watching it myself. In the boudoir, Xu Lingyue squatted on the ground. His face was red, and his ears were red, and he hugged his chest. The maid said, "Miss, it's time for you to change your habits. You have to freshen up before opening the window." Now it's been seen by the big wolf. Fortunately, it is my own brother. If you show it to outsiders. How are you still alive? Xu Lingyue's cheeks were crimson. My mind is full of the scene just now. On the other side, Xu Lingyin was squatting on the ground. Little paws hold bristled toothbrushes. Brush your teeth very seriously. It's like it's a big job. I saw Xu Qian coming. He had bubbles in his mouth. Vaguely said a word about the cauldron of drama. Xu Qian is curious about how you write it yourself. Xiao Doubting said seriously. Daddy said that men should be self-reliant in order to practice martial arts. Xu Qian was speechless. Do you know you're a girl? Xiao Doubting looked innocent. I know, Xu Qian said. Do you know the difference between a boy and a girl? Little Doubting was puzzled. What a difference. Xu Qian was a little distressed. This brings us to physiology lessons. The tirade goes on and on. The shade of the forest may not be understood. However, Xu Qian soon had an idea. In simple terms, the boy grew up teasing. The girl grew up to be trick-or-treating. Xu Lingying suddenly realized. Happy to say, no wonder my mother always said that I was a troublemaker. She ran around the room, shouting happily. I'm a trickster. Xu Qian silently closed the door. Decide today. breakfast or don't eat it at home. This morning's capital is full of flowers. There are breakfast stalls everywhere on the streets. Xu Qian'an solved the problem of food and clothing in the breakfast stall on the street. It's just when Xu Qian'an is about to check out. The stall owner looked at Xu Qian'an wearing a hairpin suit, refused to ask for money. Xu Qian'an pointed to the empty plate and said, "I really don't want it." The stall owner swallowed. Xu Qian'an ate the amount of 4 or 5 people for breakfast. The stall owner's heart hurts very much, but he didn't dare ask for silver. "Unless you don't want to set up a stall in this area." Xu Qian'an saw this, waved the stall owner away. I sat and disappeared for a moment. "You go away. Leave me alone." The stall owner was helpless. I can only count myself unlucky. Today was a wasted effort. The system of the Daoist dynasty has been killed for a long time. Sully does not rectify it for a day. The lives of ordinary people are not any better. Xu Qian'an looked at the busy figure of the stall owner. I remembered that he was in pain just now, and did not dare to ask for money. Poor like a beggar. From ancient times to the present day, it is the one who has done the most harm to the common people. It will always be an ant that the big people can't see. Xiao Xie after class. Xu Qian'an left in silence. The stall owner breathed a sigh of relief. Finally gone. Then wilted over to clean up the dishes and chopsticks. Just the next moment, the chopsticks were smashed onto the table. The stall owner hurriedly ran out. I want to catch up with the bad man just now. It's just a street full of people. Xu Qian'an has long been gone. He opened his mouth. It was like choking on something. For so many years. For the first time, he met Su Li, who gave money for dinner. Soon after, Xu Qian'an asked for leave from the yamen and returned home, because he was going to go to Yunlu Academy with Xu Qian'an. Qian'an Mountain, 60 miles away on the outskirts of Beijing. There is a world-famous Yunlu Academy in the mountains. The two are neck and neck on the official road. Xu Qian'an asked his old brother to say goodbye. Always curious. Do you say that the saint is a good product? Xu Qian'an raised his chin proudly. You think of me. Will know that Xu Qian'an is speechless. If you don't know, you don't know. Why do you still have such a proud expression? Xu Qian'an rolled his eyes. Go on and talk about how long the saint lived. Xu Qian'an. He was 82 years old. Xu Qian'an was a little surprised. A saint. He is also the founder of Confucianism and Taoism. Even if there is no product, it's not bad, is it? He only lived to be 82 years old. Although for the average person in this era, it's a long life. But the force value of this world is unusual. Even saints cannot live forever. Xu Qian'an is no longer cranky, because the purpose of this trip is to find a way back, before they decide to go into action. First, send the female dependents of the family to Yunlu Academy. In this way, even if he is really retaliated against by the Tobe squire, Yunlu Academy can also shelter the female dependents of the family. But Xu Qian'an said at this time that Yunlu Academy does not accept outsiders. It's the rule. Even me. Nor can I get the teacher to agree. Big brother is really sure. Xu wife and shook her head. It's man-made. Inside Yunlu Academy, Li Mubai, a great player who vowed never to play chess again. Stand with your hands over. Stand on the edge of the porch, listening to the heated argument between the two friends behind him. I made a mistake at this step. I'm going to do it all over again. Mrs. Zhang replied. There are no regrets. It's the rule. Prince Chun and Pingyun Road Academy, one of the 4 great Confucians. There is a talent for governing the country. The essence of governing the country is quite sought after in Dafeng officialdom. Li Mubai watched them arguing, shook his head. 2 stinky baskets. So he opened his mouth to interrupt the 2 people who were arguing. Dean Zhangsheng stared at the chessboard. The eldest princess is here. The dean is with you. Mrs. Chun sighed. Another 3 months. It's Chunwei. The students of the academy are not very interested in reading. I went to the dorm last night for a walk. there are very few readers. The few lights that lit up the chessboard were also the ones. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and scrambled on the chessboard. The chess pieces are heartbroken, and the first plaything is demoralized. Zhang Xin was furious, and if he lost, he was a plaything. If you win, you will show off your might. If you can't afford to play with Li Mubai, student studying at Yunlu Academy, it is destined to have a difficult career. Even if you are in the exam, you will be raised or jinsure. It is also difficult to rise to the top in officialdom. They are often sent to the backwoods to watch, or throw it into a corner and get moldy. It was a great blow to the demanding enthusiasm of the students of the college. There was a moment of silence. Zhang Shunchen said that this win cannot last long. It is necessary to bring up the enthusiasm of the students for the imperial examination. Mrs. Chen's serious face and sweaty hands were struggling to support. I have to hold on. Yunlu Academy can't stop the road of officialdom. Li Mubai and Chenin said that they should open the hall and persuade them to learn. Let the dean come forward. Zhang Shen covered his forehead, and the dean persuaded him to study every year. It goes on and down. It won't have much effect these days. Chen Taifu frowned. So change the way. What do you think of writing an article? He proposed. Li Mubai shook his head thanklessly. Zhang Xin said, then there are only poems. Since ancient times, poetry has touched people's hearts. Write a deafening poem. It's much better than opening a class to persuade students. But the great dedication is coming. Poetry has been weakened for a long time. If Yang Ziqian did not go to Qingzhou, this job can be pushed to him. Let's get a few miles. He's the best at it. The minister is too filial. Brother Jin Yin is more suitable to be an official in the court than me. You got the ball to kick the ball. I saw that there was going to be a quarrel again. Zhang Shen's scholar bowed his head and hurried in. Bow down and say, sir. Your student Uncle Su Ci is here. Take the book, boy, and leave. Zhang Shen showed up. The old man recently accepted a new student. It's Uncle Su's cousin. The loss of talent is shocking. Li Mubai immediately added that he was also my student. Mrs. Chen's heart moved. That song is not worried about the road ahead, and there is no confidant. No one in the world knows a poet. You are all blinded by fame and fortune. Yang Ziqian's name must have been passed down to future generations because of this poem. It's really enviable. It's hard to find a good sentence. How many people read in their lives also? There are only a few good poems. There is no one that can go down in history. Came out with a sentence of no worries about the road ahead. No one in the world knows you. It's already a stroke of genius. Smell soft. I hope for one or two more, so that the two of you may be famous together for eternity. The two are too famous in the stage. In time, how can the righteousness in your belly survive? Furniture that has been passed down through the ages. It can be made casually. Besides, the other party is not a reader. A good hand even got a hand. It's already a great fate. Zhang Sheng and Li Mubai also seem to have realized their mistakes. It's true that they are too utilitarian. So Kiki bowed her hand. Zhang Tai saw this. He laughed, knowing that mistakes can be corrected. Good is great. The two brothers originally came to Yunlu Academy to seek refuge. I didn't expect to be careless. It has become Xu Qian's super blind scene again. Xu Qian and Xu Xian'an entered the elegant room. The two of them are in the same room. The student has met the teacher. Li Mubai tested Ning Yan. You come to the academy. Is it because there is furniture to be appreciated by the teacher? Xu Qian shook his head. Said the students came to this room. There's one thing to ask for. Xu Qian told the two teachers his intentions. But he concealed the idea that he wanted to take revenge on Tobe Shiro. Li Mubai glanced at Zhang Shun, who also looked embarrassed. Helplessly, Dao Academy forbids outsiders to stay overnight. It's the rule. Xu Xian'an said that the eldest princess does not live in the academy from time to time. Zhang Shun shook his head. What kind of identity the eldest princess was? Xu Qian'an nodded, and the academy forbade outsiders to stay overnight, unless it is a relative of the emperor. Xu Qian almost laughed out loud. Erlang's poisonous tongue is still so sharp. Li Mubai said with a smile on his face, "Brother, you student, I'm kind of looking forward to him stepping into the realm of destiny in the future." The corners of Zhang Shun's mouth twitched. Mrs. Chen looked at Xu Qian with a smile. "You are Xu Ningyan, dressed like a shirt, pretending to be really Xu Qian, a scholar. Exactly the students. I've heard that you have a talent for poetry. It's not as good as this. If you can make a song on the spot, a poem that satisfies all three of us. The old man is in charge. Let the husband and wife sponsor the college. And keep them safe." Xu Qian heard this. "I have the bottom in my heart. Allowing the daughters of the Xu family to keep the college is not the point. The focus is on his last sentence. Keep them covered. That's what the brothers are here for." Xu Qi sighed with peace of mind. "You're trying to prostitute me for nothing." He didn't say yes right away. Rather, he said it carefully. "Write poetry spontaneously. It's still a fixed theme." The three great Confucians exchanged glances with each other. Zhang Shindao advised. Xu Qian sighed in his heart. "Sure enough, it's impossible to do things rashly. Otherwise, I can come up with a swan song for the ages in minutes." At the same time, he was relieved, because there is no over-the-top outline in this question. His little bit of literature. You can also cope with the field of persuasion. Words on popularity. There is a house of gold in that book. The book has its own yin ryu, which should be suitable. If this poem is not mistaken, it seems to have been written by the emperor of the Song dynasty. It is mixed with the smell of fame and fortune. And the students who graduated from Yunlu Academy have always had a difficult career. I sighed when I lifted people in the old exam. I don't know which backcountry I will be sent to in the future. If I copy this poem, isn't it the heart of Izumo Shoin? Everyone was silent for a long time. Xu Qian'an's brows became more and more furrowed. The three great Confucian writes, Zhang Sheng and Li Mubai, have been looking forward to it. Mrs. Chun waited with a smile. Xu Qian retracted his thoughts. The student was ugly. Resignation for me. Mama can. I thought of my own sparse calligraphy. It's a shame. So he simply called for his resignation and wrote for himself. Xu Qian tapped a few times on the table. Said 3 watches, 5 watches, chickens. It was when the boy was studying. The brunette doesn't know how to study early. Bai Shoufeng regretted that he was late in studying. Xu Qian'an finished writing. The face is slightly revealed. Excited, Li Mubai and Zhang Shun sighed at the same time. Good poetry. Ning Yin is indeed a peerless poet. 3 more lights, 5 more chickens. It was when the boy was studying. Mrs. Chun savored this poem of persuasion. I only feel that I am 3 points into the wood. Long aftertaste. Brother Ian still remembers when we were younger. Days of study at the college. Zhang Xin also recalled the scene of studying in the first half of his life. Isn't that what we were talking about at that time? When I was young, my family was poor. You can only eat 2 steam buns a day. I was hungry in the middle of the night. Hold on to the lamp and read hard. Li Mubai said leisurely. That's why you stole my eggs 2 times in 3 days. Zhang Shun was displeased. How could the matter of the scholar be called thoroughly? That's cheap. Didn't I pay you back later? Li Mubai blew his beard and stared at a chicken egg when he was poor. It's not like it's thousands of pounds now. Chun Tai coughed. Interrupt the argument between the 2 friends. Looking at Xu Qian'an after bidding farewell to the old spring crisis. It doesn't matter where you stand. All have the qualifications to be born. Have you thought about the future? History is always strikingly similar. Zhang Tai had never met Xu Qian before. I still maintain my disdain for fame and fortune. It can be seen that after Xu Qian made a persuasion to learn poetry, but pestered Xu Qian and asked him to worship under his door. Xu Qian naturally couldn't agree, so he diverted the topic and said, 3 gentlemen. Ning Yin has a question and asks the juniors. Stuck in the alchemy realm for a long time. Because he has no meritorious. The family is poor. There are never resources or opportunities to step into the wonderland. Please, sir, help me open the gate of heaven. This is the second purpose of the academy. Although you can sell the magic weapon given by Song Qin in exchange for the silver that opened the gates of heaven. But that wasn't a joy at all. Xu Qian'an is a prostitute who pursues ability. Someone who absolutely doesn't spend money. Zhang Shen shook his head and smiled. You are in a hurry to go to the doctor. We are practicing Confucianism and Taoism. How to help you open the gate of heaven. Xu Qian'an was a little disappointed and unwilling. The junior didn't understand. Since the gate of heaven is opened, need the help of a master above the nerves. How did the first person open the gate of heaven? Li Mubai asked him rhetorically. You feel that the path of martial arts was pioneered by someone. It was done overnight. Li Mubai then said slowly. It was carved out by generations of people. Perhaps the alchemy mirror was already at its peak at the beginning. Someone opened the gate of heaven by chance. As a result, the Qi refining mirror became the pinnacle of martial arts. It took years to form a perfect martial arts system. Xu Qian'an captured the key word by chance. Chen Tai took over the topic. The master of the divine refining mirror helps. Opening the gate is the safest and most convenient way. But that's not the only one. Babies are born with an innate sense of innocence. As you get older, the gates of heaven are closed. The innate true Qi is hidden in the body. If you want to regain control of this gas engine, the closed gate of heaven must be opened again. There are many ways to do this. In addition to the well-known opening of the gate of heaven, there are two more ways to do this. One is the tuna method. The method of tuna needs to be practiced from an early age. Soak in a medicated bath every day. Wash the meridians through the gate of heaven. More than 10 years down. It costs a lot of money. Now this method has been eliminated. The second method, the external forces of the world open the gates of heaven. It is also a stupid method adopted by the original predecessors. For example, the demon-devouring pill. The demon pill is the essence condensation of the demon clan's Daoheng. Majestic energy within. After swallowing the demon pill, use the majestic energy to forcibly open up the 8 veins of the Qi Sutra. But because there is no control, so it's a way to die and live a life. Su's wife was stunned. I see. Although it was not in vain, but it's also a lot of touch. This wave is not a loss. Su's wife and thanked the gentlemen for their teaching. Inside the palace of the saints, a group of students are gathering in front of the sign. After a long time, a student covered his head and shouted, "Which great Confucian is this persuasion from?" And more students, after reading it, expressed regret. Since the autumn polder, I haven't had a night reading again. During the day, there are mountains and rivers. Play chess at night. What a waste of time. It's not autonomous. Zhang Tai covered his beard and said with a smile that poetry was useless. As everyone knows, poetry is the most moving. Su Ningyin is really a peerless ingredient. Then he was heartbroken, and he was so talented that he actually learned martial arts. It's a terrible thing. Now he is in the age of his hometown. It's too late to convert to Confucianism. Zhang Shen seemed to remember something. If you are not angry, just say it. The two of them, when they were young. His father decided to quit his old school and study. Ning Yin practiced martial arts. Li Mubai hated that Su Pingji was not a benevolent son. A good seedling of reading was wasted in vain. It's hateful and hateful. The more the students discussed, the more intense it became. One of the students wondered if this was a piece of advice. It will definitely spread wider. But why is there no signature? This sentence was listened to by Li Mubai. At the moment, my mind is full of unsigned words. The next moment he disappeared in place. Appeared in front of the sign, hey grinning in his mouth. So he wrote his signature. At the end of the year, Exine Cho had nothing to do at the end of the year. Mu Bai persuaded Shui to do this. Chen Tai and Zhang Shun were both angry, and this can be rubbed off. Shameless old thief. If you have a cheeky call. The Dean of Accord and the eldest princess after the academy had a very happy conversation. Huaiqing said in a clear and cold voice, and said coldly, I haven't seen him for half a year. There is a lot of silver in the dean's hair. Zhao Shou drank tea with a smile. It's all troublesome silk. Huaiqing's studio micro-movement. It's like a quiet battle. When I went up the mountain today, I heard a poem recited by a disciple of the academy. Don't worry about the road ahead. There is no one to know. No one in the world knows you. Such a masterpiece. Honggu was very pleased to hear this. I don't know which Confucian constellation it is. This eldest princess of the Daebong dynasty. It's different from ordinary women. A lady from a scholarly family. To be proficient in piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting is to be talented. And this eldest princess, she learned to play chess with Wei Yuan. Follow Zhang Shun to learn the art of war. Follow Chen Taixue to govern the country. Sage Classics. He recited it like a stream. The article is a book of the Department of Strategy, and the book of the country is a student blog post. Compulsory learning rich 5 cars. At the age of 18, the emperor granted him permission to participate in the compilation of books in the Hamlin Academy. The year before last, Huaiqing tried to recompile the history books of the previous dynasty. Provoked protests from the ministers. In the end, it didn't work. Dean Zhao Shi listened. Shake your head and smile. Yunlu Academy is full of talents, but he is not as reckless as others. The entire Dafeng ruling, all numb to thought. The bone plate lacks aura, and poetry pays the most attention to aura. Huaiqing wondered what the dean said. Beckoning and sighing, the person who did this is not a scholar. It is a fictitious official in Changle County. Huaiqing was slightly moved. Then Huaiqing's eyes were sincere. In a serious tone, the dean really didn't think about accidents. Confucianism is people-oriented. It's just that the aid is not repaid. The dean should not waste his years again. In fact, the official position of the Qingzhou General Administration Department was originally granted to Zhao Shou. It's just that Zhao Shou is reluctant to take office, and wrote to the imperial court to recommend the Ziyang monks. Zhao Shou sighed and wasted his life. If it can open up a path for future generations to study, why don't you do it, old man? It's a pity that the bamboo forest has been enlightened for more than 10 years. Dedicated, it can't cross the damnation of the painting of Qingya. Huaiqing said calmly that the dean was too obsessed. That's not all. Father invited you to be born. It is intended to reuse Yunlu Academy. If you really think about the students of Yunlu Academy, you shouldn't say no. Zhao Shoshan said with a smile. It's getting more and more uncontrollable, Wei Yuan. It's still the dragon-slaying technique of those nobles. Sharper and sharper. Huaiqing word by word. From the heart, the Tao is for the people of Dafeng, for the sake of the common people in the world. The smile on Zhao Shou's face became more and more sarcastic. The people are alive. Huaiqing sighed. After the battle of mountains and seas, Daebong's national power is weakening day by day. Natural disasters continue year after year. The guards have countless vegetarian meals. The scourge of charging is becoming more and more obvious. Zhu Gong of the court. Stop party strife. There are countless people who are idle talkers. There are very few people who work hard to prosper the country. The Dean Empire is a stutterer. After speaking, he didn't wait for Zhao Shou to speak. Keep talking. 3 years ago, the northern barbarians tore up the treaty. Repeat border violations. Plundering the people. The southern barbarians destroyed Ilu. Sneak up on the military formation. Trying to reclaim the wetlands. The countries of the western regions watch coldly. Buddhism used this to threaten the Central Plains. He gradually increased his tone. As a reader, shouldn't there be a show of revenge? revive the prestige of the country. Zhao Shou stared at Huaiqing for a moment. Then he shook his head and sighed, not reluctantly. The time has not yet come. Eldest princess, please go back. Huaiqing couldn't hide his disappointment in his eyes. I was about to say goodbye and leave. Hurried footsteps could be heard from Jay. A gentleman from the academy hurried in, shouted the dean. It's not good. Li Mubai, Zhang Xin, and Mrs. Chen fought 3 people. You're an old horseman. He's a shameless old thief. Look, I'm really angry. Huaiqing proposed. Take me with you. Zhao Shou did not answer. None of them are within a single foot. It belongs to the Sage Academy. The next moment, Howard exhaled. Both disappeared in place at the same time. When Huaiqing opened his eyes again, they have come to the palace of the saints. But then Howard righteousness rose again. Zhao Shou's figure disappeared again. Huaiqing walked out of the Sage Academy, staring blankly at the sky. He obviously didn't understand what was going on. 3 great Confucians actually fought in order to persuade the bachelor single-handedly. Zhang Xin snorted Li Mubai. You shameless. Just grabbed the students with me that day. Such a despicable thing has been done today. The knowledge of the saints has been read into the belly of the dog. Li Mubai retorted loudly as a teacher. What is the problem of helping the disciple polish the essay and poetry? It's clear that you, the old horseman, are jealous of my talent. The minister said disdainfully, you can shut up. The old man can't stand it anymore. Li Mubai slanted at him, and his surname Zhang and I were anxious. There is a fate in the eyes, and there is you. Mrs. Chen's business. While going cool, at this time, Zhang Xin took out a book from his arms. Yo-Yo said, it seems that it is difficult to distinguish between Howard and righteousness. He tore off one of the pages. Let it burn. The moment the paper burns out of thin air, beetles with green bodies are born. Buzzed towards Li Mubai. Li Mubai did not panic at all. I also found a book. Tear off 2 pages. Ignite at the same time. The old man traveled the world a few years ago. It's not without harvest either. When the pages burn out, transform into a crimson lizard. The crimson lizard's cheeks bulged. The end erupted in a fiery flame tens of feet long. Burn the green clouds into ashes. Meanwhile, another page burns out. Conjure up a scantily clad young girl. The body is as light as a squid. A moment later, he appeared in front of Zhang Sheng. Zhang Daru's eyelids were heavy. An irresistible sleepiness swelled up. That's when it happened. Mrs. Chen also burned a page of paper in her hand. A bright golden pill. Flowers bloom with golden light. Li Mubai was suddenly stabbed. One stumbled after being hit by the golden light. And Zhang Shun was also burned by Jin Dan. Break free from sleepiness. Hurriedly agitated Howard righteousness. Shake away scantily clad young girls. The 3 great Confucians fought in full swing in midair. The students watched with relish below. I didn't expect to see the Confucians fighting one day. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Huaijing was a little surprised by the methods of the Confucians. The 6th-ranked Confucian students were able to learn the mastery of other systems and put it into writing, load it into the books. Zhang Shun used the means of ancient poetry. A young girl on Li Mubai's paper. It should be a wizard system. As for Chen Tai's performance, if you don't see it, it is the golden pill of the Dao man. Zhang Shun gritted his teeth and was a shameless old thief. Hugh blames me for being ruthless. Li Mubai, your pants are off. Li Mubai's crotch suddenly cooled. Stunned, I found that my pants had slipped to my ankles. Li Mubai's mentality exploded. Yelled that everyone's pants were off. Countless people below bent down in horror to lift their pants. A milky white jade pendant on Huaiqing's waist glowed. Dodge the blow. At this time, a majestic voice clearly reached everyone's ears. Cannibalism is forbidden here. Floating is not allowed here. Get the hell out of here. The voice fell. The heroic righteousness of the three big breasts automatically dissipated. Newton regained face and pulled them out of midair. Zhao Han with gray hair scattered. He walked up to the three of them with a calm face. What's going on? Zhang Shun and Li Mubai silently exchanged glances. Tacit understanding was reached in an instant. Nothing. It's just that there are differences of opinion in the administration of science. No one can convince anyone. So it was a different approach. It's just cold. Mrs. Chan was stabbed. 2 deans. I reported them as lying to you. Zhao Shou was attracted by a plate of notices. Gaze intently for a moment. See that small line? It was clear to me. Zhao Shou's face twitched. What they just hid from me. He was about to speak. Huaiqing appeared behind him. He looked at the notice and asked who wrote the poem. Zhang Xin hurriedly said that he was the old man's student. Mianyang Pavilion sent Yang Qinji's light boat was also made by him. Li Mubai added, his name is Xu Qian'an. He is a fast-hand official in Chang'an County. He is also my disciple. Huaiqing felt that the name was somewhat familiar. It seems that I heard who mentioned this name. I just didn't take it to heart, so I can't remember. Such a talent. Being a fast hand in Chang'an County is too condescending. Even if you can only compose poetry. It's enough for the palace to be a staff member in the house. Huaiqing's clear eyes swept over the crowd where others were. Chun Tai Dao went to the mountains. 600 years ago, there were people who did it on their own. Smashed a dynasty's Boyu. This person's name is money. Zhong was active with the Great Bong dynasty. At the beginning of the country. Despised the former kings and faint. Officials are corrupt. Haofa fish and meat people. Wolves are everywhere in the Central Plains. The rebels are divided. At that time, the imperial court was a large state. With rebels everywhere. There has been a tug-of-war for more than 10 years. The people living at the bottom are miserable. Qianzhong, who is as big as a mirror, has been traveling abroad for 3 years. I witnessed the scene of the people's poor livelihood. He was full of anger and resentment to the capital of Dazhou. In flesh and blood, it has broken up one of the few national fortunes in the big state. Then Dafeng was founded. Quell the war. The 4 C's are healthy. Xu Qian'an questioned the second-grade Confucian mirror. Is it so powerful? Why didn't I see the 3 great Confucians? These 2 words. Xu Qian'an instinctively replied. Who told you that the teacher is a second-grade Confucian mirror? They are just a 4th-grade gentleman's mirror. There are 2 meanings of Confucianism. One refers to a scholar who is a scholar and has a reputation. The other refers specifically to Confucianism and Taoism. The 3 great Confucians of the Urban Mirror Academy belong to the former. Xu Qian'an asked suspiciously. Yunlu Academy can have a second-grade Confucian. Xu Qian'an shook his head. Regret for 200 years. At most, there have only been 3 pins of life. The dean of our college is the 3 products. Xu Qian'an told Su Erlang his evaluation. The character of those 3 old gentlemen. It seems a little pompous and improper, lacking a bit of composure. Jiro groaned for a moment. They weren't like this before. After the realm of the gentleman is the realm of the 3 products. This may have something to do with the state of life. The same was true for the Ziyang lay priest before. Recently, I have suddenly changed my character. It's like a different person. I listened to the teacher. The Ziyang lay is only half a step away from his life. The brothers wandered aimlessly around the academy. Xu Qian'an took him to visit some places of interest. Walking and walking. Xu Qian'an suddenly shouted in a deep voice, "Big brother." I thought about it for a long time yesterday. If it weren't for your dad having been asked, beheaded the female family, and rushed into the workshop division. If not you, Sister Lin Yu was in danger yesterday. It is likely that he was bullied by the surname Zhou. If not you, the Su family may still be immersed in the luck of the rest of their lives after the catastrophe. And then one day, it was suddenly destroyed. With that, he strode forward. I silently said thank you. Inside the Yaxingsha Palace, Xu Qian'an looked at the egret and said, "He is the origin of the name of Yunlu Academy. Xu Qian is a scholar who is elegant. The egret is the mount." Xu Qian'an glanced at his cousin. Correcting the road is not a mount. It was his wife Xu Qian who re-examined Qiasheng. Muttering is no worse. It's all writing anyway. It is recorded in the Yunlu Chronicle of the Academy. This egret is a demon. Listen to the scriptures under the saint's seat. And they were with him. One person, one demon. Get along since childhood. Very emotional. Married to each other. Female love. At that time, it was not allowed to be in the world. The same is true now. But after the saint knew, there is no stick to beat the Mandarin duck. Instead, they approved of their marriage. The sage said that great love knows no bounds. It can be seen that as long as there is affection, humans and demons can also stay together. Since ancient times, the love of demons has a mixed number, such as the unity of heaven and man. So what is the mixed name of this sub-sage? Refers to the deer as a horse. Horses of horses. The statue of the Holy Lady of Xu Qian'an arched his hand. In the new year, respectfully, when the disciples of the Haja are pro-strategic. Xu Qian's eyes turned in the hall. Discover the left and right sides of the main hall. Each erects a stone monument as high as a person. It reads, "Righteous death and robbery to repay the king's grace." Famous for centuries. Chen Huisu walked over in the new year. This is the sub-saint of the country. Stay here. Xu Qian was full of interest. There are two words written in his eyes. Eat melon. Xu Qian'an said in a low voice. This goes from 200 years ago. That real fruit is the case. Daebong dynasty. True Qunabin event. The real country is the position of the true prince. The foundation of the prince's country. At that time, it was the reign of Renzong. The crown prince's position is vacant. For more than 10 years, the two princes were strong competitors at that time. One is the eldest son. One is the prince born to a nobleman. That nobleman was very charming and charming. Deeply favored by Renzong. Renzong intends to subordinate the prince as the crown prince. However, it encountered opposition from the civil and military forces of the Manchu dynasty. Renzong issued orders many times, but they were all rejected by the cabinet. And at that time, he led the civil and military forces of the Manchu dynasty. It is Xu Qian'an, a scholar of Yunlu Academy. Yo-Yo said, "Standing tall is not young. The enemy is not numbered." This has been the rule since ancient times. Even the emperor can't disobey. Big brother, you're right. Reason is the dragon-slaying technique that scholars are accustomed to. This battle for the country's capital. The two sides have been tugging for 6 years. During this period, the cabinet capital changed by 4 people. Batch after batch of officials walked in the court. Until this time, a scholar from Yunlu Academy took over the position of cabinet capital. He did not continue to adhere to the ideas of his predecessors. Resolutely devoted himself to Renzong. Resolved the matter for Renzong with insults. The uproarious battle for the national capital has finally come to an end. Yunlu Academy was disgusted by the human sect because of this incident. He was aware of the existence of Yunlu Academy, not conducive to the rule of imperial power. At this time, Chen Hui proposed the formation of Guozijian. It is up to the imperial court itself to cultivate talents. And the weakening of Confucianism began at this point. This is Yunlu Academy and Guozijian. On the origin of the Confucian orthodoxy controversy, Su Weifan suddenly realized Guozijian is a national university. Yunlu Academy is private. How can the private sector do it better than the state? Xu Qian'an finished speaking. With a tone of examination, I asked the eldest brother what he thought. I'm referring to the real Kakamoto. This matter has nothing to do with academics. Xu Qian complained in his heart. I think it's about academics. A mud-legged guy like Big Brother can't answer. Xu Qian said leisurely, on the surface, it is the real country. In fact, it is a struggle for power. Readers want to be ambitious. There must be a lot of power in hand. And the amount of power in a country is fixed. When you have more power in your hands, others lose power. The highest level of party contention is to overthrow the emperor. Become the uncrowned emperor. Xu Qian'an originally asked for advice casually. Hearing this, his face changed drastically. Xu Qian glanced at him. I'm not right. Xu Qian'an took a deep breath and continued. Xu Qian'an nodded. No matter how powerful the Confucian dragon-slaying technique is, after all, the imperial power is stronger. Controlling the government is only temporary. In the end, they will be liquidated. For a courtier is always a courtier. Xu Qian'an asked with some urgency. How to crack it? Xu Qian shook his head. This is incomprehensible. The court is like a battlefield. The party struggle is cool for a while. Family crematorium. But Big Brother has another idea here. Qianduru's deeds are a living example. When you can have an impact on foreign abandonments. You are from the scholars who are attached to Huang Quan. Has become a strong man who can be on an equal footing with Huang Quan. Xu Qian'an's eyes lit up. A look of joy just appeared on his face. I heard Xu Qian say leisurely that Erlang was very smart. Children can be taught. Xu Qian did not continue to speak. I had a question in my heart. Although the future of Yinlu Academy in officialdom was cut off, but it is still a sacred place that controls the Confucian cultivation system. As for the entire Confucian system, it began to weaken. Is it because of the three products? The Confucian system must be entered into the court as an official. Or does it involve something like Confucian charm? Xu Qian asked. So, what does this tablet mean? Why is it standing here? Xu Qian'an stared at the eldest brother. Sighing, this is a follow-up to the Confucian orthodoxy controversy. Or a part that is not holy. Brilliant talent. After he established the Guozi prison, it lasted 13 years. Finally created a set of blue out of blue. And the education system is better than blue. Su Qi was relieved. Preserve the principles of heaven and destroy people's desires. Su Erlang nodded. Cheng Yashing thinks. Everything in the world follows a certain law. This law is called reason. Reason is the most essential thing in the world. And the most correct. All things depend on reason. To thrive. But man is in the chaos of all things in the world. Will lose themselves. Lost reason. So he took the spine of Yashing as a saint. A whole set of rules was put in place. Readers follow this set of rules. You can't go wrong. That's right. It is in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. This set of rules, loyalty, filial piety, and righteousness have been raised to the height of heavenly principles. The king wants his ministers to die. The minister had to die, and the father wanted the son to die. The son had to die. For the sake of righteousness, sacrifice life for cleaning. When he died, Su Qian listened silently. Suddenly asked, what does Uncle C.I. think? This is right or wrong? What do you read? What is the philosophy of the reader? Isn't it just to set a heart for heaven and earth? Establish a life for the people. For the sake of the saints, continue to learn. Is it peace for all generations? But today's Confucianism and Taoism. But it follows the principles of heaven. The concept of destroying people's desires. Xu Qian'an faced the torture of his eldest brother. Stunned, he stood still. Open your mouth to speak. But there seems to be a mysterious force stuck. There's no way to say it. Xu Qian understood. This power is called mental imprisonment. Xu Qian turned his gaze back to the inscription. That's why we have this monument. Su Erlang nodded. The dispute between Yinlu Academy and Guozijian. It's an academic battle. It's a battle of ideas. But this monument has stood in the Yashingsha Palace for 200 years. Standing. As long as he exists for a day. Yinlu Academy can't win in one day. Dean of Guozijian. Trumpeter is poor. Dry college for more than 10 years. trying to refute what is written on the inscription, trying to create a more mature and correct set of ideas. But he failed. Xu Qian'an took it and said that because he represented the truth, it stands for being right. Xu Qian'an sighed more than the dean. In fact, the academy has been a great Confucian and Mister in the past generations, are all struggling with this inscription, but no one succeeds. The thoughts of Yan. I want to enlighten the idle. Xu Qian'an, who could be refuted, had a guess in his heart. When he pointed to the side and said that there was a blank tablet over there, Xu Qian'an sighed and said that this is where the dean is standing. But for more than a decade, he never put pen to paper. Afterward, some students and Confucians tried to mention characters on the stone tablet, compete with Chung Yaxing's inscription. It's just that the next day, it will be wiped off. However, the pen and ink stone on the table remained. Maybe the dean also has some expectations. It's a pity that the person the dean was expecting never showed up. I used to think I could mention the words on the stele as well. Speaking of which, Xu Qian'an did not continue. Obviously, I don't plan to take the former youth frivolously. Tell Brother Tang, lest you die once in society. Xu Qian'an faced the inscription and died to repay Jun's kindness. Famous for centuries. There was a moment of silence. Say goodbye in a deep voice. The eldest brother asked you whether the king is heavy or the world is heavy. Xu Qian'an did not hesitate. Nature is the life of the world. Xu Qian'an was asking why you were studying. Xu Qian'an subconsciously said that he was loyal to the army and served the country. After saying that, he was stunned. Xu Qian'an didn't care. Continue to ask for the name that will go down in history. Is it really the lifelong pursuit of a reader? Xu Qian'an did not answer, but his silence says it all. Two great Confucians of Yunlu Academy. For what the teacher did, it also says it all. Xu Qian'an sighed leisurely, and the king wanted his ministers to die. The minister had to die. Why should the father want the son to be king? The son had to die. Why can't this shit society have more human rights? Xu Qian'an smiled and said that I am not a scholar. But I also wanted to write something. Say goodbye to me. Mama, I'm going to write it myself this time. Xu Qian'an's mind. Suddenly, the face of the stall owner this morning appeared. Obviously, the flesh hurts to death, but they did not dare to ask for money. Poor as a dog, the accumulation of power in the Daebong dynasty. Kill the well-dressed beasts of the temple for a long time. A mouthful of loyalty and patriotism. But it was never right. The people at the bottom lowered their eyes with pity. He thought of Zhou Lidong riding a horse on the street. Arrogant and domineering posture. I thought of the record of rampant in the middle of the capital. The existence of extraordinary force. Let the ills of the feudal dynasty. The display is more and more vivid. It also allows the people at the bottom. I don't even have the courage to resist. He was in his last life. At least it is known that it provoked a vigorous peasant uprising. But in this world, the peasant uprising did not even have a chance to take shape. It was quickly extinguished. Xu Qian'an took a deep breath. Pick up the pen and write. Establish a heart for heaven and earth. Establish a life for the people. For the sake of the saints, continue to learn. Peace for all generations. After writing, Xu Qian'an only felt refreshed. The jade in his chest suddenly dissipated. Throw the pen away. Say goodbye loudly. That's what a reader should do. Xu Qi's old mind was like a thunderbolt splitting the snack of chaos. Split the shackles of the soul. He stared blankly at his cousin. I don't know if it's an illusion. Xu Erlang seemed to see. The rich purple qi above the cousin's head flashed away. Suddenly there was a sound. The stone tablet on the side suddenly cracked. A huge crack appeared through the top and bottom. The brothers were taken aback. Before they could react, the entire Yashingshu palace shook and trembled. The Yashing sculpture rushed to the top of the mountain with a breath of fresh air. Dozens of miles away from the white clouds. Unusual noises. Xu Qian'an was stunned. What's going on? It seems to be in trouble. Xu Qian'an was emotional. Say out loud, what is in trouble? What does this have to do with us? We have never been to the Yangtze River Palace. After saying that, he grabbed his head and went out of the door. Xu Qian'an chased his legs. Xu Qian'an didn't expect him to say a word casually. Will cause such a terrible vision. Still, he looked at his cousin with a shudder. I just now. Isn't it a solution to an eternal problem for the academy? Xu Qian'an instinctively replied. At most, it's a 200-year problem. Su Weifan asked that. What should we do now? If it's just me? You will be advised to stay where you are, waiting to receive the worship and gratitude of the teachers and students of the college. But now I'm here. I just want to take you away quickly. Saying goodbye is the best choice at the moment. Yunlu Academy and Guozijian are disputes over Taoism. The eldest brother accepted Yunlu Academy's gratitude to date at the same time. It will inevitably attract the hostility of scholars who were born in the country. All the princes and nobles of the Manchu dynasty are the sons of the country. A tax and silver case is full of doubts. And this is more dangerous and troublesome than 100 tax and silver cases. Su Qi sighed with peace of mind. Saying goodbye coincides with my thoughts. So he said goodbye. You're a real dog. Xu Qian'an ridiculed the rough martial arts. Then he went on to say that as long as we left. Afterwards, it is believed that the college will not wantonly publicize it. We'll keep it confidential for us. The large screen outside the Sage Academy. Everyone looked at the vision that took place in the direction of the Yangtze School Palace. Wait for Huaiqing to turn around. It was found that the dean and the three great Confucians had long since disappeared. In the empty hall of the Sage Palace. Hydrogen is rippling like a spring breeze. Highlight the figure of Zhao Shou. He quickly swept every inch of the hall. Then the eyes focused on the cracked city. Inscription on aria. Three great Confucians followed. They asked the dean what had happened. How did the steel crack? Li Mubai was the first to react. I thought to myself, this is a good thing. It means suppressing the seal of Yunlu Academy's charm. There was a wavering. Suddenly found that the dean's state was wrong. It's like being immersed in your own world. Corpse-like state. Zhao Shou kept muttering about establishing his heart for heaven and earth. Establish a life for the people. For the sake of the saints, continue to learn. Peace for all generations. At this time, everyone also found the words on the stone tablet. The minister's mouth trembled. This is what a reader should really do. For the officials, for the people, for the country and the world. It shouldn't be a family with one surname. For a handful of people. This is known as a great Confucian who has a great ability to govern the country. At this moment, my whole body trembled uncontrollably. Hoarseness. Daigo empowerment. Daigo empowerment. Zhao Shou said in a low voice. The gentleman is both the last. The three great Confucians bowed down, left side by side. The doors of the store are closed. There was silence all around. Zhao Shou stood silently in front of the monument. Behind are open-work doors and windows. The sun dappled in. Much later, he bowed to the inscription. Chaowen said that he could die at night. Huaiqing lifted the hem of her skirt. Finally rushed to the outside of the Yangtze River Palace. Huaiqing looked at the academy from afar. Recalled what the three great Confucians said just now. The princess asked, I don't have a clue about this matter for the time being. Huaiqing's voice is clear. Yunlu Academy is clear. The Yangtze Academy Palace was banned. Tell the matter to the Emiya. Let him keep an eye on the academy. Find out about it. Beat the more people to take the test. Huaiqing continued. Check someone for this palace. He is a fast hand in Changle County. His name is Xu Qian'an. Stargazing Tower Bagua Terrace. The prisoner was sitting in front of the shore, a glass of wine in his hand, silently looking at the northwest of the capital. Chu Kaiwei, who was on the side, said, Master, when will I be able to step into the 6th grade? Become an alchemist? The supervisor replied with a smile. When do you rest in peace regardless of Qian'an? The time has come, Xu Qian'an replied while eating. It's unlikely in this life. He swallowed the food. Keep chattering. By the way, that fake silver burns easily. And if you throw it in the water, it will explode. Can't save it at all. It's not good to give the emperor an account like this. The governor said softly. The emperor is full of food and supports. Let him roll the calf. It was Xu Qian'an who spit out the tip of her tongue. The disciples did not dare to say this. You go yourself. The master and the 4 senior brothers are almost stunned. You don't care. Always run out of the city when it's okay. Say what alchemical mysteries are the gates. It was already open to him. Master, I think Xu Qian's little fast hand is very good. Let's just take him. See you in 4 days after you receive it. Master, what is grafting? The traitor is angry, and he can't stop your mouth when he eats. It turns out, it is correct not to talk too much while eating. Xu Qian'an asked Jianzheng while eating. All sorts of nonsensical questions. In a fit of rage, Kenshin turned all his dishes rancid. Xu Qian'an begged the master to come back. It's just a firm smile, master. I'll teach you another truth. In the realm of alchemy, most conversions are irreversible. Xu Qian'an wiped her tears. While crying and chirping, he left. I'm not going to be with you, old man, anymore. The accord on the edge of the bamboo forest of Yunlu Academy. Li Mubai said with a serious face. I asked. There were no students at the time. Near the Yashing Shui Palace. I don't know who got into it. Handwriting on the steel. Do not belong to any student of the college. Can write such ugly words. I don't think it's taught by our academy. Zhangshin knocked on the table. If you are not a student of the college, and today it's in the academy again, there are only the 2 brothers of the Su family who happen to be in the mountains. Li Mubai snooped and thought of the inscription. I'm ashamed. I've long since lost the idea of a career over the years. I just want to live forever. Leave your name in the history of the Qing dynasty. Zhang Shun praised it. Said that the pure brother is high and bright. Leave that advice to me to guide you. Li Mubai immediately changed his words. There is no contradiction between serving the country and the people and going down in history. Dean Zhao stared at Li Mubai. The blue light flashed in his eyes. You're about to die. Li Mubai smiled and brushed his shirt. Epiphany in an instant. Enlightened. The other 2 great Confucians instantly became sour. 3 products are in the realm of life. It is a realm of searching for purpose in life. Everyone has their own way. Dean Zhao shows way. It is to create a new genre for Confucianism. For thousands of people in the world. Break the shackles of thought. Find one. New paths. So he couldn't achieve that goal in one day. You can't break through to the 2nd grade realm in one day. Zhao Shou's eyes are from now on. Students are forbidden to enter the Yashing Shui Palace. This matter is not allowed to be disseminated. And then said to the 3 of them, and the gentlemen should be the 3 traitors. I'm afraid that the 3 great Confucians will ride together. Han Shou's 2 horses galloped quickly. When approaching the capital, the brothers slowed down. Xu Qian'an asked the doubts in his heart. Should the eldest brother explain? You're just enlightening. How to say such earth-shattering words? Xu Qian'an raised his chin proudly. That's something that only a reader can say. Xu Qian really wanted to spit out this slot. Look at you. Everything is inferior. Only reading is high. Lao Tzu graduated from 9 years of compulsory education and police academy. And he is also a veteran keyboard warrior. Deeply influenced by keyboard culture. Know a little bit about everything. Really compete for knowledge reserves. You readers, in front of me, I can only count as a younger brother. He groaned for a moment. To put it another way, you scholars guard the edification of a certain thought. In time, even if you realize it's wrong, it's also hard to break free from it. This is mental imprisonment. Su Ci muttered and repeated these 4 words. The dean of Yunlu Academy was also imprisoned by his thoughts, influenced by the city's academics. He wants to break through, want to find a new genre. But he himself was in the whirlpool. And how to lead the world's scholars out of the whirlpool? It can really be done. Only those who are outside the maelstrom. Xu Qian'an said with a sigh. Maybe it's because of my big brother that I haven't read much. In order to be able to go sideways. In order to be different. In order not to be confined by urban science. Xu Qian'an looked at Xu Qian'an with a radiant look. Big Brother's words made me suddenly enlightened. Big Brother is amazing. Xu Qian'an looked sneering. It's a pity. You didn't inherit the good genes of my Xu family. It was Xu Qian'an of the Leaf family who inherited it. I suddenly didn't want to talk to him. This made the mother listen to it. I want to slap the table angrily and scold the little bastard. It's against the old lady. A shop called Bao Chi Xian in Dafeng City. The former boss sent Xu Qian'an away like a plague god. The reason is because the store has an event. Solve the anagram to buy jewelry. Xu Qian'an took advantage of this. How to solve the puzzle for the mother who wants to buy jewelry. But half of the silver saved will be divided into half of the money. After Xu Qian'an's doing, the boss basically lost all his pants. Xu Qian'an not only prostituted jewelry in vain, also made a lot of money. What to do if someone is found stalking you? Xu Qian'an had just stepped out of the treasure weapon pavilion with his front foot. On the back foot, you noticed that someone was following you. He sensed that there was a master lurking in the shadows. At this time, you can send someone to spy on yourself. You don't have to think about it to know that it's the Zhou family. It seems that it is right to visit Yunlu Academy by yourself, even if he and his second uncle are not weak. But the ladies of the family are a burden. It seems that it is urgent to deal with the Zhou mansion. In the residence of Shifu, Little Bean Ding is rushing for gooseballs. I saw that the eldest brother was coming. Happily wants to show Xu Qian'an how good he is. It's just that Xu Qian'an wonders where this goose came from. Xiao Doubting said coquettishly, and let people buy it. It is cheaper to say that it is cheaper to raise it at home than to buy it outside. Xu Qian'an snorted proudly. Asked, is there no goose? Little Doubting quickly ran away, and the goose was over there. I'm going to get out. A few seconds later, the sound of a child killing a pig was heard. Little Bean Ding cried. A big white goose was dragging on his feet. Bite his little short leg. Xu Qian'an didn't plan to save him. I turned around and went to the study. Xu Qian'an said, my eldest brother and I have already settled down. I can send my mother and sister to the academy tomorrow. It just so happens that the shade of the forest is also about to be enlightened. Xu Qian'an. Hey. Laughing, Little Doubting heard the good news. I'm sure I'll be able to cry with joy. Xu Qian'an laughed enough. He put away his smile. I have something to tell you. I was followed when I first came back. Leave you with the past. Xu New Year sighed. Even if you're being followed, how do I know? Second Uncle Xu said in a deep voice, Ning Yin. You're staying in the house tonight. Our uncle and nephew lived as much as they could. It's easy to take care of. Also, I'll be out later. Go to the Blade Guard and give a word of wisdom. Let them intensify their patrols in the vicinity at night. Dinner time. Xu Qian'an coughed. Attract the attention of the family. Maya was about to have a seizure. I saw Xu Qian'an take a box and come out. It contains jewelry that Xu Qian'an prostituted during the day. Annie smiled. Reach over and take it. It's just that Xu Qian'an turned around and put it in the girl's hand. Second Uncle Xu saw that the situation was not good. Hurriedly came out to play a round to dissipate his anger. Don't be like this stinky boy. Ning Yin, how good it is for you to have silver to subsidize your family. Can you afford to buy such flashy things? Su Lingyue said lightly. There is no shortage of short-term fathers in the family. You still have your eldest brother's phoenix rice in it. Second Uncle Su was so choked by his daughter that he couldn't speak. So he changed the topic to Ning Yin again. Where did you get your money? Su's wife on Dao. I think the jewelry on my sister's head is too cheap. Keep it in mind. Ma got acquainted and saved some silver. In addition, Bayo Kixwin has a half-price game of charades. Sister Ling Yue suddenly grasped the point. Keep it in mind, This home, it seems that only the eldest brother has put himself in his heart. Auntie said lightly, after the new year, Ning Yin will be 20. The master has to give Ning Yin a marriage. Then he looked at Louis. I think she's good. When I was young, I was raised in the house. And Ning Yin are also childhood sweethearts. The delicate green he has pressed her whole life. Cheeks flushed slightly. Some are overwhelmed. Su Lingyue was a little unhappy. Don't be a precious. The eldest brother's marriage should be discussed with her father by herself. The subtext is mother. Don't you count your status in your eldest brother's heart? The aunt has a hatred for her daughter. Scolded Ning Yin and Lu Lang for their talent and beauty. I also know the roots. Also get your turn to have a sister against. Su's wife is too much to know the root of the matter. It's not there yet. Xu Qian'an said that his mother felt that Louis had married her eldest brother. The bride price is waived. There is another reason for the eldest brother to move out to live. Annie was right. Speechless for a moment. Then air pass you, child. Since childhood, he has not been able to speak. Second Uncle Su's conclusion on closing the coffin has been done. You don't have to worry about that. Not too much to bury. Exhausted. It's not going to be all feminine. Louis looked disappointed. Co-authoring himself is a tool man. Xu Qian made Shun Xin angry enough today. I thought it was Xu Qian. That kid finally got his senses. I know filial piety. In the end, I was still angry with myself. After eating, I went back to my room. Auntie is still angry. That little cub of yours has no conscience at all. You know that you are angry with me. When I took him from you, he's the size of a kitten. Who pull him big? He was thinking in pieces. Suddenly, I saw my husband take out a wooden box from his arms. Hand it over, and the surface of the wooden box is engraved with the 3 words Bao Kixwan. Second Uncle Su had no choice but to say that Mingyan asked me to give it to you. Neither of you will bow your head and admit defeat. He's also embarrassed to give it to you. That's why I didn't take it out on the table. He held it in his precious hand. Snorted lightly. That little bastard still has some conscience. Second Uncle Su stood by the window on the other side of the room. He stared at the silent courtyard outside the window with a serious expression. At hand is the long knife of the warrior of the Bath Knife Guard. The night was uneventful. Second Uncle Su and his wife, who had been sleepless all night, were relieved. Wake up early in the morning. Su Lingyue is the same. Wearing a single coat. Push open the window. Stretch the girl's wonderful body in the cool air. At this time, the maid behind him asked Miss, "What are you looking at the window?" Su Lingyue's face suddenly darkened. 2 hours later, all the people of the Su family arrived at the foot of Qingyan Mountain. Second Uncle Su frowned. We are too grassy and all soldiers. It's been quiet since last night. Su Erlang, who is good at the art of war, said slowly. If it was really the people from the state capital who followed the eldest brother yesterday. So, they've missed 2 of their best shots. But it's also possible. In the eyes of Zhou Shirlang, we're just ants that can be pinched to death at any time. There is no rush to deal with him. There are bigger troubles hanging around, Xu Qian said in a deep voice. But there is one thing we have to face. That is, Zhou Shirlang does not get rid of it. We will surely die. The Su family said no more. Kiki went up the mount. Xu Qian said while carrying Zia Dowding. Do you know what the front place is? Little Beanie shook his head. Xu Qian pointed to the front and said that it was your second brother's academy. We're going to send you to school. I won't be allowed to go home in the future. Little Bean Ding suddenly felt dizzy. The next moment he began to cry. Not long after, Li Mubai came out to greet everyone. Xu Qian'an said that he had met Mr. Mubai. Teacher, Zhang Sheng. Li Mubai replied absent-mindedly. He went into retreat. It's just that his eyes keep watching. Su Qixin couldn't help but think of the words on the stone tablet. But he quickly hid that thought. Said that I had already arranged the yard by someone. Su Ci thanked him. The sister is in the stage of enlightenment. Will you allow him to study at the college for a while? What does little bean Ding want to say? But he was held back by Xu Qian'an. It's really dumb and eats coptis. I can't tell if I have any suffering. Su Lingying is 5 years old. In this day and age, scholars do not exclude enlightenment to children, even advocate such. And so it passed for 2 days. Xu Qian said, "We took the information we gathered in each of these 2 days. Let's sum it all up. It is good to make a plan to deal with the Zhou government. Second, Uncle Su's information is as follows. Zhou Li has been very peaceful these days, probably warned by Zhou Shirlang. There have been no violations of the law. Indulge in sex with a group of yamen all day long. In and out of gambling houses, restaurants, teaching workshops, and other places. In addition, I found that Zhou Li frequently went in and out of a certain house. There was no plaque in the house. It should be a private house he bought outside. There was a maid living in it, a mother-in-law, an old janitor, and a woman. 9 times out of 10, he kept the woman outside." Su Xingyan and Xu Qian listened silently. Respective contemplations. The shape is different. The nephew and son tacitly ignored him. Su Xingyan said that the students of our college, although the students of Guozijian are not all the way, but individuals can have friendships. However, the lifters of the same period occasionally get together. Zhou Li has an arrogant personality. There are disagreements with many of Guozijian's classmates. There have been conflicts, but he is by no means brainless. The backgrounds of the people who have a dislike for him are very ordinary. Xu Qian was not surprised by this. It can be analyzed from Zhou Li's methods against him, although the way of doing things is not clever, but effective and with a certain amount of scheming in the city. This undoubtedly makes it more difficult for us to deal with him. Su Xinyan continued. Zhou Li has been infatuated with the Fuxiang girl of the teaching workshop division for a long time. Every time I go to the workshop division, you must find Miss Fuxiang. But it often snowed while playing hobby. Su Qian was in good spirits. Fuka girl. The Oiran king named Font said to sleep for 1 night. A beauty worth her life in. Su Qingqing didn't notice his cousin's abnormality. Moving on, I originally thought, you can play Tiger Hunt again. Use the conflict between Zhou Li and her classmates to make a plan. But those classmates are not enough. And with Zhou Li's caution, let him provoke the higher level Yanai. It's too difficult. It's almost impossible to achieve. Zhou Li went to the teaching workshop division a lot of times. If you want to get more information, that Fuka girl is an excellent breakthrough. Su Qian came back to his senses on Oiran, found that this cousin had fallen into a misunderstanding. So he opened his mouth to deal with Zhou Li. We must not have too complicated and elaborate plans, because the gap between them is too big. Readers are the most likely to be clever and mistaken by cleverness. When people are counted, will make it more difficult for yourself to think about the subtlety of the layout and the mastery of the means, especially Uncle Su Ci, who thinks highly of himself and is familiar with the art of war. Uncle Su Ci's brows furrowed. I was a little unconvinced, and the big brother had any high opinions. Su Qian said lightly, naturally the simpler the better. A crime that really has no trace is a murder of passion. Let's make plans like that. First, there are not many people involved. Second, don't be too complicated. If Zhou Li had a conflict with a certain yamen, and the father of the Yanai, and happened to be able to wrestle with Zhou Shirlang, what will you do if you are to blame? Su Xinyan fell into deep thought. Su Qian hurriedly stopped it. Your silence says it all. We can take advantage of the opportunity. Directly beat that Yanai and beat him up, and then walked away. Su Pingji finally seized the opportunity to interject, slapped the table, and said loudly, Ning Yin, this doctrine is deeply satisfactory to me. Su Ci wondered, it's as simple as that. Simplicity doesn't mean it's invalid. More often than not, Lu Bai is good. The beaten Yanai will think, I've offended someone lately. As soon as I reflected on it, I immediately thought of Zhou Li. And Zhou Li will definitely not admit this kind of thing. But it doesn't matter. Everyone is free and right-minded. Anyway, the contradiction has intensified. You hit me. I'm going to take revenge too. Su Ci is a smart person. Slightly in my head. After a while, I understood what the eldest brother meant. But his tsundere. He can't admit that Su Jian is better than himself. So he raised his chin and gave a pretty good evaluation. Then he asked Big Brother, what intelligence was gathered? I found out who Zhou Shilong's political enemies were. Su Qian'an and second Uncle Su leaned over at the same time. His face suddenly became serious. Su Weifan muttered that it was the book of the household. Su Qian'an's heart was shocked. Many doubts were solved in an instant. No wonder Zhou Shilang of the household department wants to plan the tax silver. Because he knows. I'm about to be put in small shoes by my boss. A huge sum of silver was urgently needed to fill the shortfall. And it is precisely because of the complementarity of the same. So, Tope Shangshu was able to catch Zhou Shilang's foxtail. Second Uncle Su was a little unlucky. Ning Yin, how did you know about this kind of thing? Su Qian said. Si Tianjin's Kaiwei girl told me. He added silently in his heart. The substitute driver is just a sugar gourd. A roast goose leg. A serving of sake-stuffed meatballs, and a bowl of fishball soup. Big-eyed Lori is easy to buy. Here's the plus. The disadvantage is that he has no intention of going to politics. Si Tianjin also does not interfere in government affairs. Hence the limited knowledge available. That's not good. Miss Kaiwei, you lack a book of Su Dalong's self-cultivation. I'll write to you later. Su Qian looked at Su Qian'an. Information we collect. It's not enough to come up with a detailed plan. What do you want to do next? Su Qian'an thought about it. I recommend going to the workshop division. Find out the news from Oren Fukuoka. I'm sure I can't do that. I never go to the land of fireworks. Su Qian also said seriously. I'm sure I can't go either, because I haven't stepped into a relationship yet. After speaking, the two stared at Su Pingji at the same time. Why am I going to go to the sect division? Lao Tzu didn't even know a word. It's not interesting to go to self-deprecation, seeing that the father was unwilling. Su Qian'an threw the pot to Su Qian again. Big Brother is bloodthirsty. The Department of Teaching is extremely popular. Second Uncle Su immediately rejected his son's proposal. Said with a frown, your eldest brother is an honest man who doesn't even go to the bar. Let him go to the workshop division to investigate. Don't get stuck in it when the time comes. The body is also occupied by the woman in the hook bar. Su Qian, who never listened to the tick bar, nodded. Indicate that you are not that kind of person. Second Uncle Su refused to call Fong Si, except that it was the territory of the literati. Don't like rough billets. There is one more reason. Su Ci refused to go to the teaching division. In addition to students should pay attention to reputation and reputation. There is another reason. Su Qian refused to go to the teaching workshop division, except that he never goes to Golan to listen to music. There is another reason. That's social death. All three looked away from each other in good interest. There was an eerie silence. For whom the three of them went to the Jiaofeng temple to find out the news. There is an impasse, because they are all afraid of social death. There's a rule at hand here in the inner city. The inner city is not the same as the outer city. The latter did not lift the ban, and the former because they live are decent people. For the safety of dignitaries. After the drumming at dusk, there could be no more people on the streets. As everyone knows, the workshop division works at night. This means going to the workshop is more than just asking for information. You'll have to stay overnight. Here's why. Su Pingji objected to Su Qian going to the teaching division. Originally, it was a young and vigorous guy who stayed in the teaching department. The girl teased. Who can stand it? So who went to call fonts? Whoever has to go to prostitution. And there are 3 men here. They are all upright gentlemen and gentlemen. Xu Qian'an didn't go to hook Xu Weifan, Gu family's beloved wife, Xu Pingxi. The three of them knew one thing clearly in their hearts. Even if it happens for a reason, prostitution is prostitution. Doesn't change that fact. In fact, they're most afraid. Or, when I was riding a horse, I met my own family. It's embarrassing. Xu Qian coughed and called Fong Si to put it aside in advance. We continue to find out, and we're not sure. There will be good news from the floating incense urn. The day after tomorrow, I will redo it and summarize it. If there is no additional vending, let's think about it. Xu Qian thought it would be better to sacrifice himself. Let's go to the workshop division tomorrow night. The next day at noon, Xu Qian married back to Xu's mansion. This era, those who can live in the inner city are people of status and status. It is worth mentioning. Shun has always wanted to sell the property in the outer city. Move to the inner city. It's a pity that there is a nephew of the Gold Eater. Let Shun be full of yearning for the inner city. But there is no chance to live in it. After a while, Xu Qian came to a market. I looked up at the archway Yongkang Street at the entrance of the street. Yongkang Street is one of the main roads in Beijing. It is important that the main road is so wide. The emperor or the nobles of the clan traveled. There will be guards who clear the venue early. Even if there were assassins who wanted to hide in the buildings on either side and let their arrows go. See this distance? I can only helplessly tap the keyboard with both hands. Hit 666, just when Xu Qian was wandering around. Suddenly, a luxurious carriage caught his attention. Directly blinded his titanium alloy dog eyes. Xu Qian thought sadly. It is estimated that he will struggle for a lifetime. I can't afford to buy a wheel. Yes. Xu Qian was attracted by the noise on the side. The soldiers are playing a game of pitchers. But apparently after a few rounds down, none of them were thrown in. A soldier walked up to Lao Dao. Lang said the old way. My master said, 60 taels of gold. Buy everything you have on your stall? Xu Qian was speechless, and the pitcher didn't hit. Is it directly kryptonite? Lao Dao opened his mouth and smiled. To put it lightly, rules are rules. Xu Qian stepped forward curiously to check. Let's not talk about what this old way puts out. But the gold and silver ingots were placed on the stall and were not snatched away. This old way seems not simple. That jiashi was deflated. I can only leave belatedly. Xu Qian took the opportunity to step forward and asked how much it cost to play once. The old man, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, handed over the 3 arrows. A penny, 30 steps away, blindfolded and thrown. Xu Qian took the arrow, thinking in my heart, 30 steps away to throw the pot for the martial arts of the alchemy mirror. It's not too difficult, but in the case of being blindfolded by too deep and shallow, it's almost impossible to hit. But he has absolute self-confidence, because he hadn't picked up any silver for days. Xu Qian threw it casually. All 3 arrows hit. There was a sound of amazement from the passers-by around them. The uproar attracted the carriage that was about to leave. A soft and beautiful voice floated out of the car window. Parking, Xu Qian pounced on the old road with starry eyes. Gold on the stalls. Just when he succeeded, Lao Dao ruthlessly slapped his hand away. Then pick up the Bodhi bracelet and jade trail. Smile and choose one of the two. Xu Qian refused. The old saying is that rules are rules. And these two are rare treasures. How can it be compared to yellow and white vulgar things? Child, don't be blinded by gold and silver. Mrs. Xu thought at ease. I just want these mundane things. Still, he asked, what is the purpose of your treasure? Lao Dao is a single. I don't know. I just know that they are waiting for someone who is destined. Xu Qi's abdomen was slandered. Treasures are not treasures. Who is right? How affordable silver is. Xu Qian is about to usher in the moment of white prostitution. He was still complaining that Lao Dao was a profiteer. A soldier behind him stopped him. This son, my master asks you for a favor. Xu Qian turned his head and looked at the luxury carriage not far away. "What do you masters want?" The armor looked at the old way. "The string of Bodhi beads. My master is willing to come out. 60 taels of gold." Xu Qian'an had a warm smile on his face. "Deal Jia," said the Lord. "People say you can cast a few more times. All the money will be from us. It doesn't hurt if it fails. It's just that the voice is falling." He saw Xu Qian'an blindfolded. "Throw it out." The swordsmen were all thrown into the lake with unerring precision. The armor is a little confused now. The unremarkable-looking young man in front of him, dressed as a scholar, but definitely a master. Xu Qian'an took off the blindfold. He looked towards the luxury carriage. Just the breeze was blowing. Lifted the carriage with a kick. It's a pity that it's not enough for Xu Qian'an to find out. At this time, Lao Dao handed over the things with a smile. After Xu Qian'an handed the bracelet to Jia, and he got 60 taels of gold, he looked at the carriage in the distance. "I don't know what big people live inside." When he looks back, I found that the old way was gone. Xu Qian'an muttered, "I don't care anymore. Now it's important to exchange the gold for the silver ticket first." Over here, the ratio of gold to silver is 1 to 860 taels of gold. That's 480 taels of silver. Xu Qian'an was a little distressed. It is estimated that this silver can only buy a small yard in the inner city. I want to buy a mansion with 3 entrances. Don't even think about taking it down if you don't have 10,000 taels of silver. But it's more than enough to slap your aunt's pretty face. Xu Qian'an sighed. Why make money every time? I couldn't help but think about using a silver ticket to fan my aunt. The original owner's resentment towards his aunt is too strong. 480 taels. A few lower-grade Qinglu Oiran should be enough. It's just not cost-effective. 480 taels. I could alternate with several Oirans for months. And to redeem one's life. Not to mention the exhaustion of family wealth. Has to be responsible for his food and clothing. And my current salary is only enough to support a wife. Besides, I won't redeem the Qinglu woman. You must know that the private use of the bus will thunder and thunder. At dusk, Xu Qian'an came to the famous teaching workshop in the capital, a famous state-owned enterprise in Beijing. Xu Qian'an of the health club heard Lao Wang say, "A normal green building is a 2- or 3-story building. There are 1 or 2 annexes. It's quite specified, but the Department of Teaching and Learning does not need to, because this piece of the courtyard belongs to the church division. State-owned enterprises are so wealthy. There is a threshold for the teaching workshop division. The base consumption is 5 taels of silver. But that's not the price of a night out with a girl. It's a table opening fee. Therefore, there are 3 main types of customers of the teaching workshop division. One is the huge bones. This type of guest is the most willing to spend money, because of their low social status on weekdays, has a fanatical attachment to sleeping prisoners and their daughters. The second is officials. Workshop division for them. It's a place to have tea after work, as long as there is socialization. I like to go to the workshop division. It is worth mentioning. Officials of the Ministry of Rights are allowed to prostitute for nothing, because it doesn't matter in the rules of the church. The third is a reader. This kind of person is more than the gentry. I like to write poetry, and there is no difficulty in serving as an official. Therefore, it is most liked by the girls of the teaching workshop. There are also 3 kinds of girls in the teaching division. The first is the wife of the offender. This type of woman is the worst, forced to fall into the dust, being bullied. The second is the woman who came to Lu in the war. The third is the stepson recruited by the Department of Education. Such women are willing to become honorable seafood merchants, contribute to Dafeng's abalone business. Spirit is precious. Xu Qian'an sighed that he really lived and learned all his life. The king has nothing to do with the head. He stopped outside a courtyard. The plaque at the gate of the courtyard reads, "In Mei Xiaoga." A 16 or 17-year-old porter boy stood guard at the gate of the courtyard, is looking at Xu Qian'an with scrutinizing eyes. Xu Qian imitated the reader. In the lower Changle County, Shotsai Yonglin. I have heard the name of the girl Fuxiang for a long time. Come and visit. Inmei Kakaku is the residence of Orin Fuka. There are a total of 12 Orins in the faculty division. Cut the color according to the rhyme. It is divided into 4 classes. Nyang belongs to the first class. It is known as a poetic and romantic stunt. I'm used to seeing the porter of the big man. The guy has a cold attitude. Stretch out your hand and ask for 10 taels of silver. After receiving Xu Qian's silver, he was allowed to enter the courtyard. There were 2 maidservants at the entrance of the church. See the guests coming. Reminded Xu Qian that the tea committee had begun. The family needs to be in order. Since it's a family, Su Guilin came and called Fong Si. So will the remaining 2 of the Su family be far away? The place where Ing Mei Xiaoga entertains guests is on the first floor. More than a dozen guests sat in the pub drinking and laughing. Su Weifen's mind flashed what Wang gambled about. Tea is the rule. Try to make your smile as gentle as possible. Towards everyone in the lower Changle County Shotsai Yonglin. Ladies and gentlemen, you are courteous. Among those present, there are gentry in brocade clothes. There are also students of Guozijian. The status is neither high nor low. Xu Qian sat down calmly. Gaze, always glued to the Oiran lady who acted as the blame. Her face was cold, colorful fragrance of wood. The 5-color charm is natural. This woman is very nice. Xu Qian, who has read countless media, was also amazed. From the facial features alone, this Oiran and auntie. There are also Su Lingyue and Chu Kaiwei at the same level. There are different kinds of words. All have their own characteristics, belong to the kind of walk on the street. A character that will definitely amaze a man. The beauty Fuxiang girl acts as the identity of the dove, also called commander. The commander is responsible for presiding over the drinking. Ling is the atmosphere on the table. This time, they're taking turns saying the right pair. The middle-aged man beside Xu Qian raised his glass and said cold wine. 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. The voice fell. The Oiran lady clapped her hands. A compliment to the middle-aged man's uplink. After the review, it's time for Xu Qian. Xu Qian was silent on the surface. I was secretly anxious. I'm not very good at pairs, but it's hard to get it right. But he soon had an inspiration. Lilacs are hundreds of heads. The eyes of everyone in the room lit up. Immediately complimented a few words. But what Xu Qian cares about most is the comments of Fuxiang. Kazuka, Oren smiled. Zhao Li's downlink to Xu Qian. A pat on the wrist. After the evaluation, immediately looked away from Xu Qian. The sitting posture is also a little stiff. Drink alcohol only when you drink it. Xu Qian came to conclusions from these. This Oiran lady. I can't look down on our level anymore. I've been patiently accompanied. And then there was a sound of footsteps. Xu Qian turned his head to look over. I found this figure somewhat familiar. Isn't this exactly the Xu family Erlang? Xu Qian was suddenly stunned, frozen in place. Xu Xinlian felt that someone was watching her. When he turned his head, he found that it was his cousin. The 2 of them complained in their hearts at the same time. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. The middle-aged uncle on the side looked at them. A hellish expression, somewhat curious. Come up and ask you what you know. Xu Xingyan coughed twice in embarrassment. He said, we don't just know each other. Xu Qian suppressed the shame and embarrassment of overturning the river and the sea. The calm smile has been met a few times. I think Brother Xu still remembers Yang. We've seen it in Changle County. He deliberately declared his surname. Give Xu Xingyan a heads up. Let him use a pseudonym. Xu Xingyan immediately got the cousin's meaning. Fist clenched at the middle-aged uncle. In the next, Xu Pingyan is a student of Changle County. The voice just fell. Someone else came in outside the door. Both of them were startled at the same time. It can't be him. But fortunately, it was a false alarm. The person who came was a son. can be immediately followed. Second Uncle Su, who was followed behind Brother Gongzi, also came in. As the saying goes, a family should be neat and tidy. Isn't that immediately fulfilled? Second Uncle Su frantically complained about the 2 rabbit cubs in his heart. Didn't you say there was no time? It's just a matter of saying goodbye. After all, what he really thinks in his heart. I know a thing or two. Ninkyun. But Su's wife, who never goes to the fence, is the same. Didn't the second uncle say that he would be on duty tonight? I used to have a conflict with my aunt every time. He said that he could marry such a beautiful daughter-in-law in his life. It is a blessing for 8 lifetimes. Reluctant to scold my aunt. Phew, it's not like he's out for prostitution. Xu Qian'an's heart is also rich. Didn't the eldest brother never go to the checkbox? I said how my roe deer was gone. I'm a brazen person. Dad didn't say that he loved his mother deeply. Never go into the land of fireworks. Xu Qian'an felt the most embarrassing thing in his life. One more was added. That's when you go out to prostitution. I met my second uncle and younger brother. The source of the inner drama of the trio. It's more colorful than a stiff expression. Xu Qian'an simply opened the board. Anyway, I wasn't the only one who shot me. What is the filial piety of the father and the son? After everyone is gone, second uncle, Su, let out a sigh of relief. It's hard to stay in it any longer. It's not good for people to see that the 3 of us are related. Originally, Su Zai hid Xiaoga's words. Those maidservants only need a tale of silver. Now I can only go to the other courtyard to find other women. The first price was 5 taels of silver. This includes the money for tea. Speaking of which, Su Pingji paused, seeing that his son did not have a habitual poisonous tongue. Ask him why he knows so clearly. But it's okay not to ask. Second Uncle Su smiled awkwardly. At the same time, he took out 5 taels of silver from his bosom. Jiro silver. When you take it to the thorns, you will not be afraid of the cold or the heat. Even sleeping on the side of the road for a night is not in the way. Your bones can't stand the cold wind of the night. The Su family went bankrupt because of the sleeping silver case. Even after a month. But on the whole, it is still relatively tight. After a while, the New Year's voice was a little hoarse. I don't want second Uncle Su. Be sure to take it from your son. Pull between. Click. Xu Qian'an fell out of a certain amount of official silver. No more, no less. It's just right. Father and son looked at the silver on the ground. Fell silent. On the other side, the maid pushed open the door of the master bedroom. Motioned for his wife to come in. The moment the door opened, I saw a young woman with a wonderful demeanor. Kneel on the couch. She wears a light gauze dress, knowing that the skin like jade looms. He was smiling at the door. The 2 looked at each other. She bowed her head slightly. There was a shy smile on the corner of his mouth. Su's wife sighed ashamedly and said I had heard about it. Miss Fuxiang is extremely talented. It is a rare beauty in the world. I didn't believe it before. Now I believe it. Fuka pursed her lips. Said shyly Yang Gongzi. Don't make fun of the slaves. At this time, there was a protest from the tea room next door. Zhao Gongzi drank an entire pot of tea. Pang Guang protested twice. The 3rd time was when he finally couldn't help it. Is he here for tea? I've been waiting in the tea room for so long. Why hasn't Miss Fuka seen me yet? The maid stopped the door of the house and refused to let him in. At this time, there was an Oiran lady in the house. A voice full of feminine charm. Since Pinger is not convinced, Zhao Gongzi is not convinced. You take the poem out and let him see it. Zhao Gongzi is really a bit of a brain. What a poem after a long time. Zhao Gongzi came down from the 2nd floor in despair. The people who were still waiting around stepped forward to ask. Zhao Gongzi's face was gloomy. Muttered that I lost. The loss is convincing. What the hell is going on with everyone coming forward again? Where did the book begin? Say it quickly. I'm dying. Zhao Gongzi turned a deaf ear. As he walked out, he muttered to the declaration of Zhongfang's Sheikh of Independence. Occupy the charm to the small garden. The shadow is sparse, and the water is shallow. Dark incense floats in the moon dusk. The voice fell. One student burst into tears. The mouth trembled. As soon as this poem came out, "Hew the eternal Yongmei people. All the students will retire first. Shaoxing is going to play tea elsewhere. Spread the word about this poem." The guests dispersed in a hurry. I can't wait to go to the tea end of the annex. Then threw out this poem and made a splash. There are two kinds of people in the world who love to argue: scholars and prostitutes. Since ancient times, there are many famous prostitutes who have been famous for centuries because of their poems. Fu Xiang's eyes flowed with affection, coquettish and moving. The slave family wants to thank the sun. If the slave family can go down in history in the future, it must be the credit of child. Su Weifan stepped forward, only lives in front of Fu Xiang. So how are you going to thank me? Fu Xiang was shy and didn't dare to look at Su Weifan. Child has a long night. You might as well listen to the slave family play a song for you first. Resident in Yaxing. Xu Qian'an took a sip of tea. Relieves dry throat caused by alcohol consumption. The tone opened the topic casually. Fuka girl. The country is beautiful and fragrant. Is there no one to redeem you? A girl named Fonts. Where is it said that the redemption of the body can be redeemed? It's to meet a lover. The Ministry of Rights will not agree to it. It's hard to ask Fonts to be a red Oiran to redeem himself. Because it's about yourself, you have to go through a lot of processes. Dotted up and down. The amount of silver spent is far greater than that of other green mansion Oirans. The Oiran of an ordinary green building is about 500 taels to 1,000 taels. Xiao Fang's Oiran may have doubled. And even more. What is the concept of 2,000 taels? I had to save for 10 years without eating or drinking. Su Weifan touted. It is also based on the beauty of the Fuxiang girl. Even Dafeng capital can't pick out the second Oiran. The lady sneered. Rejoice in the heart. Said that the sun should not make fun of others. The first beauty in this Dafeng capital is the princess of Jinbei. People are just the posture of Pu Lu. Princess Jinbei is this woman again. Xu Qian'an heard it again. This legendary first beauty in the capital. In his previous life, he asked himself countless moons, and was surprised to see Su Lingyue, Chu Kaiwei, and other beauties with almost no flaws. I really can't think of how beautiful this princess is. In order to firmly rank the title of the first beauty in the capital. Xu Qian's supermarket scene struck again. The liquor order continues. Xu Xingyan's response is quite moderate. After all, Ju is a reader. Xu Qian'an looked at the state. Sometimes it doesn't come up. Can only be fined for drinking. And Su Pingji was drinking from beginning to end. Was disliked by everyone. Originally, according to Xu Xingyan's meaning. The eldest brother, who is good at poetry. In the Jiaofang temple, it should be like a fish in water. Unexpectedly, it came down for half a day. Hua Jiuqiwen took turns to pair each other. There is just no poetry. In fact, the poems in the Jiaofang temple have been lukewarm. For almost 200 years, there are very few excellent poems. Scholars are not good at composing poems and lyrics. When playing tea around, it is natural to avoid what you are not good at. The three of them were in this awkward atmosphere. Ended this tea fight. Next, if the Oiran lady has a crush on someone, we'll let the servant leave it behind. Introduced into the house. If there is no bridge, the maid will send off the guest. Then start the next round of tea rounds. Everyone waited expectantly and apprehensively. A servant came up, called out my lady to invite Zhao Gongzi into the house to drink tea. At this time, the three men of the Su family couldn't sit still at all. Su heir was anxious. The brow is furrowed. Look at my son, let's think of a way. But the two of them remained frozen in place. Can be sudden. Xu Qian'an remembered the title of the floating fragrance Oiran. The piano corpse is a must. Immediately remove the contents on the table. Look at Xu Qian'an. Say goodbye. You bring blood for me. I'm going to start performing. Inside the Oiran boudoir, the floating incense is bathing. The maidservant on the side said, Lady. Zhao Gongzi was already waiting in the tea room next door. I heard from the guests outside that he was a talent from the country. Fu Xiang heard the words. What's so strange about the show of lightness? But Zhao Gongzi's talent. It's not a problem to take the exam. I knew that the lady liked this kind of talent. Child thinks about the annoying Zhou Li. It's not that he relied on his father's official position to show off his might. That Zhao Gongzi is talented. I hope the lady will be well entertained. Maybe it will be a good story in the future. Fu Xiang poked the maid's finger. The head sighed. Even I made fun of it. How difficult it is for a woman to go down in history. This is something that many readers cannot hope for. At this time, a servant came in to give birth to the Taoist lady. The guest surnamed Yang outside. Let the slave and maid bring the jewelry. The big girl scolded the unruly things. The lady has already chosen Zhao Gongzi. 7 can be changed. Is it a benefit from others? This directly hit the little maid's heart. I didn't dare to talk back. Fu Xiang said lightly, Put it on the table. Go out and tell the guests. Fu Xiang got it. After bathing, Fu Xiang put on a light gauze skirt. The graceful figure looms. He said, Go and invite Zhao Gongzi in. As soon as the words were finished, he was drawn to the paper on the table. Look at it. The breathing was a little heavier. The maid walked to the door, was about to open the door to invite Zhao Gongzi. Suddenly, I heard the sharp shout of the lady behind me. Slow, who sent it? Which son is it? Say it. The maid was startled. Yin Confucianism seems to be surnamed Yang. Lady, what's wrong with you? The Oiran lady was desperate to rush out of the room. It's just that the maid is holding the lady like this. How can you get out? Fu Xiang was so anxious that tears came out. You let go of me. Don't let that boy go. Go chase it back. The maid couldn't figure it out. It's just a poem. It made the lady lose her temper like never before. The scholars of the past are gentle and elegant, and they don't care about it completely. The lady is a little restless. The slave and maid immediately went to ask the boy who wrote the poem. After the maid left, the Oiran sat at the table in disheveled clothes, looking at the paper in his hand in a trance. The crowd shook off. Reading the manifesto is all the rage. Like a small garden, the shadow is sparse and the water is shallow. Dark incense floats in the moon dusk. Shadow Plum Pavilion presents incense. Her pretty face rolled down. Fight big teardrops. When he was quiet, he cried. The three of them waited outside the stadium for a long time. I didn't see Fu Xiang coming. Second, Uncle Su mocked. The sarcasm is over. This Fu Xiang girl doesn't buy your account. Xu Qian'an gritted his teeth. This is impossible. There's no reason for Fuka to refuse herself. This poem should be given to the 2 great Confucians of Yunlu Academy. Enough for them to raise themselves as their own sons. At this time, the little maidservant ran over in a hurry, looking at Su's wife. Is it a poem written by you? 3 people together. Xu Qian'an hurriedly took the exam. The little maid hurriedly welcomed Xu Qian'an in. It's just that there is something wrong with the surrounding guests. It's not in order. How to get in 2 people? Some savvy guest stepped forward to ask. What did you write with that brother just now? Su Pingji spread his hands. Shaking his head, he just said a limerick poem. I listened to the boy. Self-calligraphy student. Can't write good words. I bothered this son to help ghostwrite. The boy felt bored. Angrily left. How beautiful is the first beauty of Daebong. She was born in a scholarly family in Jiangnan. At the age of 9, follow your parents to the Jade Buddha temple to burn incense. The host gave her a poem, which was born and shocked everyone. Graceful and pure, bathed in the sunset. Respected by all as a national color. The soul is the emperor in the world. She has since become famous. At the age of 13, he was sent to the royal palace. But today, the saints are devoted to the Tao. It's long been out of the woods. 19 years ago, Shan Haiguan's eldest sister, Jinbei Wang, is the second major hero. The Holy Lord gave him the first dollar in the capital. Xu Qian'an was a little curious. Who was the first hero? Filial piety. It was the Duke of Wei, who was the commander of the 3 armies at the beginning. If it weren't for the fact that he was a eunuch. The princess is not a princess. Xu Qian'an was stunned. Wei Yuan. Su Daolong has heard of it. Although this person is a eunuch, but the talent is brilliant. One can govern the country. One can quell the chaos. If you don't miss the opportunity early, take the top spot. It's easy to be the capital. After a long time, Fu Xiang was finally seduced by his wife. Finally brought the topic to Zhou Li. Fu Xiang said angrily, "This person is lustful and absurd, and there is no ink on the chest." The slave family does not like it. Every time he participates in the investigation of the slave family, as if he didn't exist. It doesn't matter in the rules of the church. He is the son of a household servant. The slave family did not deal with him. Su wife and showed a bit of curiosity appropriately. Smiled and asked where to start with lustful absurdity. Isn't it normal to ask for flowers and willows? Oren hesitated. Soft voice. People also heard from other officials. It's just a little bit of it too. Yang Gongzi wanted to know, and they'll tell you. But don't spread the word about talent. This has to start with last year's Lantern Festival. That Zhou Li was a ridiculous person. The Lantern Festival took a fancy to a girl. Take advantage of the crowd. Then he stepped forward to insult him. Also injured the escort next to the woman. Who thinks that girl is also a person with a background? She is the concubine of Wei Wuhou, the biological mother of the concubine. The wife of Wei Wuhou is a sister. Therefore, the lady was quite popular with the mistress. There is not much difference from the treatment of concubines. In the end, Wei Wuhou sued the emperor. The two sides have been arguing for many days. In the end, the saint ruled that Zhou Shilang was not strict with his godson. Harvest for 1 year. Compensation of 5,000 taels for the Marquis of Weiwu. Zhou Li was grounded for 3 months. If there is a recidivism, severe punishment will not be granted. This sentence was like lightning slashing into Xu Qian's mind. Let him be inspired. Suppose Zhou Li has coveted the beauty of the mighty Marquis for a long time. I was beaten because I suffered a loss a while ago. Depressed mood. The brain is hot. The idea of the mighty Marquis girl was raised again. So he sent someone to kidnap the mighty Marquis and concubine, hidden outside in a private house. Plans to kill people after the fact. Well, that's reasonable. Of course, the purpose is to frame up. I don't have to kill an innocent girl. This is the case with the first draft of the current plan. Seeing Xu Qian, he was stunned. The Oiran girl shouted at him. Seems to be coquettish, like complaining about the Taoist sun. Do you want to sit with people all night? Xu Qian instantly. Intermittent release in situ. I can't break my body yet. Don't sit all night. It's hard to sit all night. After a long time, Xu Qian had just arrived at the bed. Fu Xiang posted it. A hand was slowly shedding the disguise for Xu Qian. And he drank in his ear. Shouted against the official. A faint scent penetrates into the nostrils. Xu Qian, an honest man who never goes to the hook bar, has a serious face. Tensed up, the Oiran lady smiled coquettishly and said with a smile, "It's not that it's unstaffed." Xu Qian'an hurriedly changed the topic. And so on. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep it. Fuka girl, have you ever heard of a magic skill? Dip your pillow in 3 seconds and you can sleep soundly. The Oiran lady naturally didn't believe it. Just if he was going to have fun. 3 seconds later, Xu Qian snored. Floating incense nudged him. But Xu Qian had already gone to Zhougong to drink tea and discuss. Fu Xiang was a little overwhelmed for a while. It's the first time I've encountered something like this. The next day, Xu Qian's biological clock woke up naturally. I noticed that there was a heavy weight on my body. Open it and take a look. Oren fell asleep next to him. A long, silver-white leg rested on his waist. Su wife and woke up. It's like being a thief, thinking about hurrying away. But just when it's time to sort out your laundry, I found that my silver ticket was missing. Just as he was skeptical, it's the hands and feet of the maid in the media pavilion. I saw the original clean jade mirror, something vaguely over. Xu Qian'an found out. All his silver tickets ran into the mirror. He held the jade mirror and shook it vigorously. In the sound of a bang, silver tickets appear out of thin air, float in mid-air for a moment, slowly landed. Silent room. Xu Qian'an held the mirror for a long time and did not speak. So this mirror is really a treasure. It's my European emperor's 7 rhymes. Or the Taoist priest deliberately gave me the mirror. What is his purpose? Why did he give a treasure away? Give it to me? Did he find out that I had an inexplicable aura? But how is this possible? Kai Wei, who was proficient in the art of looking at qi for 4 days, didn't find me special. I'm completely unfamiliar with the Daomen system. This inexplicable gift. It's unsettling. Xu Qian'an hid the bathroom mirror in his arms, then quietly left the room. I just happened to be bumped into by the little girl. Startled Xu Qian'an. Doesn't child wait for the lady to wake up? Xu Qian'an hurriedly ran away. Say I'm in a hurry. I added a sentence in my heart. I'm afraid he'll call me a beast. A few hours. In the study of Su's house. Su Shuyang didn't complain about how he went for so long. Just got back and took a shower. Can't you wash school for? Xu Qian'an coughed. It's also embarrassing. Is there a catch? Xu Qian'an will help the news that Xiang got there. Inform them. And say your own plans. Xu Qian'an pointed to the key point. Big brother, who hit the nail on the head. At the heart of this plan is, how did you kidnap the concubine of the mighty Marquis? Second Uncle Su groaned and said that he would send someone to keep an eye on it first, then look for an opportunity to do it. When the concubine of the mighty Marquis traveled, there will be an attendant who will follow, then create chaos. Take the opportunity to kidnap someone. Xu Qian'an groaned, but if you do it during the day, it's hard to kidnap people in plain sight, once provoked by the ordinary sword position. Instead, we reap the consequences. Xu Qian'an smiled mysteriously. What if I could fix this? When Lao Zhang, the porter of Su Fu's front hall, passed by the flower garden, a servant was found fainting in a flower bed. He panicked when he stepped forward to check. It was found that he just fainted. Lao Zhang asked, "Why did you faint here?" The servant's expression was blank. After a moment, he seemed to remember who he was. I was just boiling water for Daolong. I only remember that Dalang suddenly called me into the house. And then I can't remember. See, Tianjin's dark circles are getting worse and worse, Songqing. There are no alchemical experiments done today. Instead, spread out on the table and write hard. Then, a white-clothed man came in and shouted excitedly to Senior Brother Song. The alchemical wizard Xu Qian'an has come to see you. Song Qing's eyes lit up. It came at the right time. Xu Qian'an received a warm reception from Song Qing. Song Qing's face was serious. Shun groaned to tell the truth. I'm a little skeptical of you. In the past few days, I have checked all 18 generations of your ancestors. Su Qi's abdomen was slandered. Say it in front of people. Is it really appropriate to check the 18th generation of his ancestors? Smiled and asked how it was. Song Qing shook his head. Your foundation is too clean. They didn't continue the conversation. Song Qing pulled out a stack of rice paper. I'll hand it over to you and show you my recent research. Xu Qian'an said that I have made up the stocks of the masters of the oil mill. You didn't even ask. He took the manuscript. A few glances. I almost stood up and shouted a few times. Quintessence. In addition to the job grafting theory, he told Song Qing. This guy also draws inferences. I have done several cases with divergent thinking. Your Excellency, Mrs. Ko. The rice paper calmed down the 3 views that were impacted. Said that there was something wrong with the Xu Qian'an room this time. I want to ask Senior Brother Song for help. You should know that I offended Zhou Shilang. Song Qin's expression was serious. Speaking of Kai Wei, I told me, I'm sorry I can't help you. Xu Qian'an never interfered in government affairs. Let's talk about a squire who holds the power of the style. It's over the limit of my abilities. Xu Qian laughed. Senior Brother Song, don't worry. What I need you to do is simple. Then he said his idea. Song Qin was taken aback. That's impossible. Song was upright all his life. Above board. Never do such a thing. Xu Qian thought for a while. I'm ashamed to say that I didn't think it through. Senior Brother Song. Let's move on to your grafting theory. I'm HO. There's no way you're going to succeed. Xu Qian was patient. Slowly. Have you ever heard of the periodic table? The mansion of the Marquis of Mighty is in the inner city. Indeed, Fuck Street is a noble place. Zhang Yueying, the lady of the mighty Marquis, is going to travel today. She is going to the city god temple today to have a fast meal. Then go to Wen Yuanbo's house. Find a fragrant boudoir, close friend to drink tea and chat. The carriage traveled 2 streets. The maid who followed the sedan suddenly heard a commotion. The 2 carriages in the rear somehow got out of control. The coachman grabbed the reins of the horse, brandishing his horsewhip in fear. The maid was shocked. While commanding the household from the interception carriage, while ordering the palanquin driver to dodge. There are not enough guards to protect them. Only one was intercepted. The other one crashed into 2 sedan drivers. The sedan chair overturned in an instant. The scene was instantly chaotic. After a brief period of confusion, the 2 carriages continued to gallop away. The maid got up anxiously to check the sedan chair. But when he lifted the sedan curtain, after being stunned for a few seconds, he screamed that the second miss was gone. A small courtyard somewhere in the inner city. Zhang Yueying knew that she had been kidnapped, but I don't know who the other side is. It's been a while since he'd woken up. After relieving the initial headache, the heart is always in a state of fear. At this time, the door opened from outside the courtyard. Then there was the sound of footsteps. Zhang Yueying's heart instantly lifted. Fear exploded in the bottom of my heart. He didn't know what he was about to face. But it definitely won't be a good thing. Footsteps stopped outside the house. Someone groaned and laughed. This girl is so beautiful. I just secretly checked the fire. Another person said, you were so cheap. Then there was a pause. He added that he didn't even call me along. The 2 figures continued to talk. He's also a cook. Nonsense. The second daughter of this mighty marquis is still waiting to be written. What do you say Zhou Gongzi will do? Although this girl is a very good beauty, but it doesn't seem to be safe to keep it all the time. You're thinking too much. Zhou Gongzi played for a while at most. When he got tired of playing, he strangled himself and buried it in this yard. Who knows when Zhou Gongzi gets tired of playing? We can also take a few sips of soup. This is fine-skinned. The tender meat is much more watery than the woman in the hook bar. Who made the family the son of the Tobe Squire? Take a walk and drink. It's not good. It's going to be dusk soon. Let's buy wine and come back. The footsteps were far away. Then the sound of the courtyard door closing. The 2 seemed to have gone out for a drink. Zhang Yueying's mind. The image of a boy in brocade flashed. The son of Zhou Gongzi's household servant. He remembered what happened to the Lantern Festival last year. He still misses himself. I'm tired of drinking soup. Murder and burial in the yard and destruction of corpses. A young lady who was carefully cared for in a wealthy family. I was so scared that I was trembling all over. Tears poured out of my eyes. He struggled to make a sound, while twisting their limbs, trying to break free from the bondage. Suddenly, he noticed that the rope on his wrist was loosening a little. I don't know how long it took. He finally opened his eyes and untied himself. He immediately sat up. I tiptoed to the door. Listened patiently for a moment. Make sure there is no one in the yard. He cautiously walked to the courtyard. then run at a speed that I have never had in my life. Rush to the gate of the yard. Pull open the deadbolt. The door was unlocked on the outside. Miss Zhang let out a desperate wail. Across the street from the yard, Su's wife and was holding a bowl of noodles in her hand. Standing next to him was Xu Qian'an, looking worriedly at the courtyard door. Will he not be able to get out? Why did you lock the courtyard door? Xu Qian took a sip, explained in a low voice. A strong desire to survive brings out the best in people. Just climb the wall and you're going to get out. If you don't lock the door, the marks are too heavy. This small courtyard is the private house that Zhou Li bought outside. There is a good-looking woman in the house. Right now, the woman and the maid in the courtyard were concierges. A total of 4 people. They were all locked in the mirror by Xu Qian. That jade path can hold items as well as live. Xu Qian tried it with the servants of the house. If it weren't for the mirror, the plan to kidnap Miss Zhang was extremely difficult. It may even be impossible to steal chickens and rice. Then, the two saw a head popping out of the wall. Zhang Yueying, who had messy hair, poked out her brain. After a cautious look at it for a while, climbed out of the fence and jumped down. She seemed to have a broken foot, lying on the ground for a long time without moving. After a long time, he cried and stood up strongly. Jumping against the wall, he fled into the street. Just at this time, a pair of swordsmen in their shawls passed by. He cried and went up to him. The captains looked back with a feeling. Zhang Yueying immediately screamed, "I am the daughter of the Marquis of Might. I was hijacked. Save me." The captain of the sword asked who kidnapped you. Zhang Yueying broke down and cried. "It is Zhou Li, the son of Zhou Li's household department, Zhou Shilang." Xu Qian smiled and said, "Let's go. Find an inn to stay for one night. Just go home tomorrow and wait for news." In the end, Xu Qianqing was not spared. The life of being urged to work. But he copied books. It has indeed touched the threshold of the self-cultivation realm. But it was when I saw Xu Qian. After the 4 sentences written on the steel. Of course, he couldn't say such a thing in public. Especially when the big brother is still there. Save yourself from the big brother who doesn't want billion. Show off your might in front of yourself. At this time, Chintai opened his mouth and said, "The 2 of you live in the capital. It can be seen that the capital has recently produced a trick-style masterpiece. Ningyan, although you have talent. But don't be complacent. It is necessary to know that the world's scholars hide the dragon and crouching tiger." The 2 Confucians were a little unhappy in an instant. This old man is jealous that we have taken in a good student. But they couldn't refute the old city's words. Zhang Shun had no choice but to say that this poem is indeed wonderful. Ning Yin didn't need to be serious with him, because Yongmei has sung through the ages. It's useless to be real. Xu Qian'an drank twice. Then he pointed to Su's wife. This poem was also written by my eldest brother. The 3 great Confucians will be in place. Huoran turned his head and glared at Xu Qian. Isn't the person who wrote the poem Yangling? Xu Qian snorted awkwardly. I did it under a pseudonym. The 3 Confucians were immediately upset. The swan song of the ages, you use it on a dusty woman. Is he worthy of Yongmei? Yongmei. Yinmei Xiaoga gave blessing incense. It's just vulgar. It's unbearable. A good poem was ruined. They say so. But what I thought in my heart was, if only it had been used on me. It's okay to change it to Yunlu Academy and give it to Mr. Mubai. Xu Qian hurriedly wrote that there would be good poems in the future. Be sure to have the 2 teachers revise the polish first. Mrs. Chun looked at Xu Qian at this time. He laughed. Su's wife felt a chill when she settled down. What Mrs. Chun was thinking in her heart was, since Ning Yin has 2 teachers, so why can't there be a 3rd? At this time, Xu Qian'an interrupted them with a cough. The younger sister was enlightened in the academy for many days. I don't know if it's going to work. Zhang Sheng and Li Mubai immediately shut up. Chun Tai stubbornly said your sister. It's really a firm mind, indestructible, between the ages. The gentleman who taught him changed for. They all vowed that they would never again be enlightened for the same in this life. The two brothers of the Xu family were taken aback. Is the little bean so fierce? The shade of the forest is worthy of you. The family in the mountain courtyard is reunited again. Little Doubting immediately ran forward and hugged his father's leg, crying, "Daddy, you've finally come to pick me up and take me home." After saying that, he began to cry. Su Pingji was distressed. I touched his brain. It seems that Lin Yin suffered in the enlightenment of the academy. The gentlemen of the academy must be very strict. Su Lingle watched the family reunion. It was a lot of fun, but he was a little unhappy. The eldest brother is the eldest son. It has always been loved by mothers. Rain can also be unscrupulous in devotion to the father. The arms of the pro, and caught in the middle of yourself, just as he was thinking nonsense. Xu Qian took his hand. I didn't see my sister lose a lot. Su Lingle just wanted to say something. Xu Qian arrived first. Let's go home first. Su Lingyue at this moment. Sweep away all the bad emotions just now. He nodded heavily. At this time, the aunt asked the master. I was away from the house during this time. Have you ever gone out to fool around? The two brothers of the Xu family said in unison. No aunt gave them a blank look. I didn't ask you again. Time flies. Kung Fu in the blink of an eye. It's been 3 days since they returned to Shifu. Lin Yu's sister looked at the eldest brother and said, Big brother, today is a day off. Go out with me. After second Uncle Su heard this, immediately jumped out. No way. What if you encounter a hooligan like Zhou Li again? I'll also repair the wood daddy to accompany you out today. Su Lingyue covered her forehead when she heard this. Forget it, I suddenly felt a little dizzy. Still don't go out. Riskolung. Come back to the same place. Here are a few meanings. At this time, the porter Lao Zhang hurriedly came to report to the master. There were 2 poor men outside the door. He also said that they were watchmen. In the Daebong dynasty, the 3 words beating people are not a good meaning. He is often imprisoned with guilt. Bloody words such as raiding the house. The 2 watchmen are not very old. The man on the left has a serious face. The person on the right is the opposite. With a smile on his face, he said, which one is Xu Qian? Come with us. It is rare that Xu Qian also has a serious scene. After the Zhou Li incident, Xu Qian said goodbye to Su New Year earnestly. You remember, it's all under heaven, except for blood relatives. Any friend and foe. It's all because of the word interest that comes and goes with you. Especially in officialdom. No one will be nice to you for no reason. No one will hate you for no reason, even if it's your best friend, and he shall befriend thee. But your presence is for him. Serve a positive purpose. In the future, you will become an official in the court. Big Brother wants you to be a capable minister, and not a clean official. Remember to be with the light. Su Xinyan muttered. Is it the same as the light? What if I am lost in the fog of power? Xu Qian said half jokingly and half seriously. That's your own creation. Of course, if you quit the past, you will become a traitor who is in trouble. Big Brother will clean up the portal. Su Xingyan was for tat. If the eldest brother becomes a martial artist for the troubled side, so do I. Su Qian coughed. Looked at Su Pingji. Second uncle, you have to bear witness for us. Su Pingji directly took the case. Scolded the 2 of them angrily. Opened their mouths and closed their mouths, and their colleagues. I really don't think Lao Tzu exists. Inside the gazebo on the other side, an impatient voice came. How many times have I talked to you? Hold the pen in a correct posture. Little Bean Ding said loudly. Got it, sir. Then you should change it back. Little Doubting stared at the innocent big eyes. Looking at the gentleman, he said, Change what? The gentleman was convinced. Don't write today. You can recite the 3-character sutra with me. Human beings are inherently good. The original nature of man. What the beginning of the people. Nature is good, human nature is good. What do you stop in between? Did I forget? The gentleman is crazy. Pointing to little Beanding. I'm not religious. Not you at this time. A sneering laugh came. The person who came was Huiqing. Yinlu Academy. What's more like-minded? Mr. Surrender. Like-minded and rude. The eldest princess is not strange. These two are the family members of the students of the college. Because there is something at home, then let the ladies stay in the college temporarily. Huiqing quickly analyzed the meaning of Mr.'s words. They have come to take refuge. Then he opened his mouth and said which student it was. Su Lingwei got up slowly. Saluted, said Brother Jia. Xu Qian'an. Huiqing looked at the delicate and beautiful girl. Said in a gentle tone, when was this? Su Lingwei replied, it's almost a decade. Huiqing carefully. Savor this sentence. It's almost a decade. The mastermind behind the sleeping prostitution case is Zhou Shilang. And exactly 10 years ago, the son of Xu Qian'an and Zhou Shilang. Conflicts occur in the downtown area. Now that he knows that he has offended Zhou Shilang, wouldn't it be better to escape Kyoto with your family? But they sent their ladies to the academy. But the men in the family still stayed in the capital. This is what is being planned. Reminds me of the fuse of Zhou Shilang's dismissal and resuming the army. Huiqing narrowed his eyes. After nodding slightly, continued the climb with the guards. Accord Lane. Huiqing was slightly surprised and said that he had not seen him for 10 years. The dean's improvement is very different. Zhao Shou smiled and said, the sage said that there is no elder or younger. Answer first. Huiqing thought in his heart. It seems to have something to do with the fact that the Temple of Asia was clear in the sky. The Yashing Academy Palace was banned. No one is allowed to enter. The watchman is also helpless about it. What the hell happened that day? The eldest princess retracted her divergent thoughts. Dean of the Path. It can be known that Zhou Shilang was dismissed from office and confiscated into the army. For Daebong officialdom. This is only the first step in the beginning of the partisan struggle. Li Mubai has not been wronged since 3 defeats. He never played chess again. There are not many people in the academy who can talk to the old man. The eldest princess is here today. Accompany the old man in the next game. How to play chess with Hanggu. Why should the dean bring shame on himself? In the attic built on the other side of the cliff. Zhang Xin looked at the poem in his hand tremblingly. Unexpectedly, the old man retreated for several days. The capital rescued the masterpiece of the Shoujing room. On the far-reaching artistic conception. The choice of words is beautiful. The scorching of verve. I'd rather endure the world. No one knows you. It's a long way off. Who is this young Ling? There is such talent. I've never heard of it. Mrs. Chun discussed. Seems to be a talent in Chang'an County. Write this poem in the Department of Teaching and give it to Oren Fu Xiang. Speaking of which, the tea room was eerily quiet. None of the 3 Confucians spoke. A sour smell fills the air. The fermentation was pervasive, and Zhang Xin pondered for a long time. I think I should inform the dean immediately. Recruit this talent into the academy. Such talents must not be buried. Mrs. Chun and Li Mubai agreed. Outside the gazebo at this time, the 2 brothers who had come to pick up their aunt and sisters happened to be passing by. It also happened to be heard talking about the gentleman. Xu Qian'an covered his mouth stiffly, because he was afraid that Zhang Xin would look for him. Write the assignment 300 times. Xu Qian'an was not spared in the end. The life of being urged to work. But he went beyond that. It has indeed touched the threshold of the self-cultivation realm. But that was when I saw Xu Qian'an. After the 4 sentences written on the stone tablet. Of course, he couldn't say such a thing in public. Especially when the big brother is still there. Save yourself from the big brother who doesn't want billion. Show off your might in front of yourself. At this time, Chintai opened his mouth and said, The two of you live in the capital. It can be seen that the capital has recently produced a trick-style masterpiece. Ningyin, although you have lost your talent. But don't be complacent. It is necessary to know that the world's scholars hide the dragon and crouching tiger. The two Confucians were a little unhappy in an instant. This old man is jealous that we have taken in a good student. But these are the words of the old city. They can't argue either. Zhang Shun had no choice but to say that this poem was indeed amazing. Ning Yin didn't need to be serious with him, because Yongmei has sung through the ages. It's useless to be real. Xu Qian'an drank twice. Then he pointed to Xu Qian'an. This poem was also written by my eldest brother. The three great Confucians will be in place. Huoran turned his head and glared at Xu Qian'an. Isn't the person who wrote the poem Yangling? Xu Qian'an snorted awkwardly. I did it under a pseudonym. The three Confucians were immediately upset. The swan song of the ages, you use it on a dusty woman. Is he worthy of Yongmei? Yongmei. Yinmei Xiaoga gave blessing incense. It's just vulgar. It's unbearable. A good poem was ruined. They say so. But what I thought was that I would use it. It's good on me. It's okay to change it to Yunlu Academy and give it to Mr. Mubai. Xu Qian hurriedly made a move. There will be good poems in the future. Be sure to have the two teachers revise the polish first. Mrs. Chen looked at Xu Qian at this time. He laughed. Sue's wife felt a chill when she settled down. What Mrs. Chen was thinking in her heart was, since Ning Yin has two teachers, so why can't there be a third? At this time, Xu Qian'an coughed, interrupted them. The younger sister was enlightened in the academy for many days. I don't know if it's going to work. Zhang Sheng and Li Mubai immediately shut up. Chun Tai stubbornly said, your sister. It's really a firm mind, indestructible, between the ages. The gentleman who taught him changed for. They all vowed that they would never again be enlightened for the same in this life. The two brothers of the Su family were taken aback. Is the little bean so fierce? The shade of the forest is worthy of you. A small courtyard in the mountains. The family is reunited again. Little Doubting immediately ran forward and hugged his father's leg, crying, Daddy, you've finally come to pick me up and take me home. After saying that, he began to cry. Su Pingji was distressed. I touched his brain. It seems that Lin Yin suffered in the enlightenment of the academy. The gentlemen of the academy must be very strict. Su Lingyue watched the family reunion. It was a lot of fun, but he was a little unhappy. The eldest brother is the eldest son. It has always been loved by mothers. Lining, you can also throw yourself into the arms of your father without any scruples. And caught in the middle of yourself, just as he was thinking nonsense. Xu Qian took his hand. I didn't see it. My sister has lost a lot. Su Lingyue just wanted to say something. Xu Qian arrived first. Let's go home first. Su Lingyue at this moment. Sweep away all the bad emotions just now. He nodded heavily. At this time, the aunt asked the master. I was away from the house during this time. Have you ever gone out to fool around? The two brothers of the Su family spoke in unison, said that there was no aunt, and gave them a blank look. I didn't ask you again. Time flies. Kung Fu in the blink of an eye. It's been 3 days since they returned to Shifu. Lin Yu's sister looked at the eldest brother and said, Big brother, let's go out with me today. Second Uncle Su immediately jumped out after hearing this. No way. What if you encounter a hooligan like Zhou Li again? I'll also repair the wood daddy to accompany you out today. Su Lingyue covered her forehead when she heard this. Forget it, I suddenly felt a little dizzy. Still don't go out. And then the gardener. Here are a few meanings. At this time, the porter Lao Zhang hurriedly came to report to the master. There were 2 poor men outside the door. He also said that they were watchmen. In the Daebong dynasty, the 3 words beating people are not a good meaning. He is often imprisoned with guilt. Bloody words such as raiding the house. The 2 watchmen are not very old. The man on the left has a serious face. The person on the right is the opposite. With a smile on his face, he said, "Which one is Xu Qian? Come with us." Su Pingji leaned sideways in front of Xu Qian. "Chun Dao," said two adults. "Something wrong with my nephew." The watchman smiled. "Don't do bad things during the day. Don't be afraid to beat people at night." Xu Qian pressed one hand on the second uncle's shoulder. "Look at the two of you. I'll go with you." In the form of beating people, the style is not to be spoken. Xu Qian was really afraid that they would draw a knife and cut people on the spot. Xu Qian got into the carriage of the watchman. Neither side spoke. He was even more anxious. But you can find yourself what to do. Is it for Zhou Li's case? That's impossible. I don't guarantee that I can do the perfect crime. But it is guaranteed. In the Daebong dynasty, which had no monitoring facilities, there's no way they'll find out. It was Miss Zhang Jiar who was kidnapped by herself. Even if there are clues, I wouldn't lock myself in so quickly. Xu Qian put his hand into his arms, tapped the button across the bathroom mirror, and pull out one. The silver ticket was handed over with a smile. The villain is a good citizen who abides by the law. Admire adults for the country and the people. I would like to offer 10 taels of silver to my lord's tea. If only the adults could tell the villain what had happened. The villain is even more grateful. The rules for beating people are strict, accepting bribes of more than 10 taels. The rod is 50 in more than 50 taels. Most when exiled. More than 100 taels. Direct decapitation. Do you think I'll be beaten for 10 taels of silver? Then he smiled and said that he had to add money. Then Xu Qian took out 30 taels. The watchman took it with a smile. Began to divide the spoils. 10 taels for each of the two. The rest will go to the teaching department tonight to check the committee. After the aliquot is finished. The watchman said with a smile. I was just ordered to take you back for questioning. The exact inside story is not clear. Arrived at the yamen. You keep one sentence in mind. Don't hide what needs to be said. Don't say what you shouldn't say. Xu Qian felt that he was losing this wave of blood. Don't you understand this truth? It still costs 30 taels to tell me from you. After a long time, Xu Qian was taken to the yamen of the watchman. His office space. It was renovated from 2 3-hall courtyards. The attic towers, dressed in black and tied with gongs, watchmen went in and out. Their expressions were grim. The momentum is awe-inspiring. Xu Qian didn't know either. Will he be sent to Du? Who fights the watchman? It's a place where you don't spit out bones. A door creaked open. The 2 watchmen guarding the door urged them to go in quickly. Wait for Xu Qian to go in. The smiling watchman shouted. He forgot to tell you. Here it is. Ask for your own blessings. Xu Qi's peace of mind is collared. At this moment, a cold voice came from behind him. We meet again. I ask you to answer. If it's a lie, punishment awaits. This person was Li Yuqin when he slept in the prostitution case. Xu Qian has seen it. He pointed at Xu Qian and said before answering the question. You get your clothes in order first. This is the most basic etiquette. Xu Qian hurriedly sorted it out. Then the interrogation began. You know the mastermind behind Sleeping Enan. Is it the former Zhou Shirlang? Xu Qian replied truthfully. I heard Si Tianjin's Kaiwei girl talk about it. That you know. Zhou Li also dealt with you out of revenge. Xu Qian nodded. That day, Si Tianjin's white-clothed men rushed into the criminal department. He was in full view. This one cannot be denied. Do you know that Zhou Li wants to kill you? Xu Qian nodded again. The strange silver luo look. The sharp light flashed away. So in order not to be retaliated against by the Zhou family, you kidnapped the concubine of the mighty marquis. Then blame Zhou Li. Xu Qi's peace of mind is collared. Sure enough, it's for this. But he didn't panic at all, and even show a certain dazedness, and the panic of being wronged. What the adults say, the villain doesn't understand. The majestic marquis was abducted and unbearable. I thought I was in charge of the Yamen of Changle County. Where did it go? The villain Golan listened. The villain is indeed derelict in his duties. I often sneak up on Golan to listen. This point can be testified to by Wang Zhutu and other false examples. Because that's how everyone fishes. Li Yuchen asked, so how do you explain the storytelling? In the record of the Yamen issuing commentaries. Show many times that you went to the inner city. Xu Qian'an immediately pretended to be excited. The villain is wronged. The villain has never been to the inner city. He has never been a commentator in the Yamen. Su Qi was relieved to be a bandit. You're still trying to trick me. When I went into the inner city, I asked someone to do a storytelling. My hands and feet are clean, and the client is Yang Ling. What does it have to do with me, Xu Qian? On its interrogation skills. Lao Tzu is also a professional, okay. Li Yuchen sighed. Yes, if it weren't for the fact that we had the evidence in advance. Just by the conversation just now. Maybe I'm already believing you. Xu Qian's face was expressionless. Slander in my heart. You're kidding me again? The tone was still very sure. Xu Qian never thought of it. I originally thought I was relying on my own modern criminal investigation methods. It's not as exaggerated as a perfect crime, but the whole Dafeng wants to catch his flaws. Is it impossible? But what about the result? But he was beaten and pressed to the ground and rubbed. The first day of October, Xu Qian returned from Yunlu Academy, and the treasurer announced the purchase of Jinbu Shao and was followed by people on the way. Suspected of being a state capital. That night, Wu Jing retired from the state capital assassins. The second day of the first day of October, because the female dependents went to Yunlu Academy to avoid the fire. On the fifth day of October, Jean Niken entered the workshop. Si Lu Su gave blessings to Mei Xiaoi. It is suspected that Xu Qian did it. On the seventh day of the first month of October, driving a carriage to collide with the mighty marquis. Take it as a means, rob the face of the mighty marquis. Born to adulterous Luo Hashang. The little book glanced at Xu Qian mockingly. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Xu Qian's body was cold inch by inch. The body couldn't stop shivering. The Dummers were following me. He followed me the day I went to the academy. These days, all the plans were seen by the watchman. It's over, but it's obviously unreasonable. Since the watchman witnessed the whole process, why didn't you expose me at the time? Instead, wait until after the fall of Zhou Shilang. Then please come over for tea. The cold glint in Xu Qian's eyes flashed. The villain pleaded guilty. Everything was done by villains. What to do with the two adults? Listen to it. The two watchmen looked at each other. Li Yuchen opened his mouth and said, Xu Qian, you are very smart. We were here to test you. If you show flaws in interrogation, or to be crushed in the face of ironclad evidence, then you will be greeted by real sanctions. And now you're greeted by an invitation to fight the watchman. Xu Qian's head was a little dazed. Li Yuchen said lightly when he was in the back hall of the mansion, I've already confirmed that you're a talent. It's just that people have rules to practice their strength, which is the bottom line. But you use your own ability to testify. Know you and now, even if you're practicing diligently. Watchmen are also willing to recruit you. Sue's wife is embarrassed. It's because their means are dirty enough, thoughtful enough. So I was admitted exceptionally. The stern-faced Inluo added. Of course, the main reason is that the eldest princess recommended you. Xu Qian was shocked again. Who is the eldest princess? Why did he recommend me? I don't even know him. Xu Qian asked with a stomach full of confusion and puzzlement. In addition to these, the reason why the two adults didn't report me. Li Yuchen smiled and said you should know. The duty of the watchman is to supervise the 100 officials. Greedy for ink, Qian Liang's Zhou Shilang. It's not the same camp as the watchman. Even the fall of Zhou Shilang. There are also watchman organizations that are fueling the troubles. Zhou Shilang will finish sooner or later. We've already started to deal with him. It's just your little trick that helped us speed things up. Li Yuchen looked at his colleague Dao Sun on the side. As previously agreed, I'll take this guy. Please get out for a while. Iara, surnamed Sun, does not leave. Instead, he looked at Xu Qian'an with a smile. You have the right to choose. Follow him or follow me. There is not much difference in rights between the two of us. But he is a man who admits death and does not know how to change. Follow his gong. Life is very average. And follow my gong. Up to 3 years. You could buy a decent courtyard in the inner city. After 3 years of work, you could buy a house in the capital. It's an irresistible temptation. Su wife and politely rejected son Yinlua's solicitation. When Dao first slept in the case of prostitution, Master Li gave me the opportunity to redeem my merits. I have always remembered this kindness, so I want to work under him. Son Yinluo slowly got up after hearing this. When I went out, I left a sentence to understand the end to newspaper. It's a good thing. Li Yuchen smiled mildly and introduced himself. Li Yuchen will be your head in the future. You could just call it that. If you don't feel used to it, you can also call him Master Li. Su's wife said with peace of mind that it would not be okay to call Brother Chun. Li Yuchen continued, work under me. Be worthy of your heart. You need to keep that in mind. At the bottom of the watchman is Bai. They are not compiled. It's also odd jobs. This is followed by a gong. They are the serious watchmen. But at least you have to cultivate to the Qi refining realm. The moon phoenix is 5 tails of silver. 20 meters up is the silver gong. I want to protect the treatment. On top of the silver gong is the golden gong. It is the highest level of position. There are only 10 in Dafeng capital. Jin Gong directly obeyed the orders of Duke Wei. The duty of the watchman is to supervise the 100 officials. Defend the capital. Li Yuchen looked at Xu Qian'an. You are now at the pinnacle of your practice. I have 2 suggestions. The first is to slowly accumulate meritorious deeds. Wait for your chance. The second is to pay 400 taels of silver. I'll open the gates of heaven for you. Xu Qian'an decisively chose the second one. Li Yuchen was slightly surprised. Are you quite rich? Xu Qian'an said that it was all Si Tianjian's. Kai Wei lent it to me. Xu Qian'an just came out of it. Nicholas Song and Zhu Guangxiao greeted them. Nicholas Song looked familiar, smiled and said, we will be colleagues in the future. Follow Li too to do things. There aren't that many intrigues and the disadvantage is to be cautious when fishing for oil and water in the future. Just don't go too far. Xu Qian'an gave him a roll of the eyes. Then can you give me back the 30 taels? Nicholas Song immediately pretended to be stupid. When have I ever taken your money? After Xu Qian'an completed the relevant procedures for beating the guard, one final process test qualification is required. Xu Qi was relieved. Is it the same as the TV series? At this time, Nicholas Song explained Xu Qian'an's confusion. Testing qualifications is the rule set by Wei Gongding. They are force and wisdom and conscience. The 3 of them entered the pavilion together. The floor can be in the lobby. Banners on pillars on both sides attracted Xu Qian'an's attention. I am willing to kill my ministers with my body and mind. Do not seek self-interest. Song Tingfeng said that it was written by Wei Gong. It is used to warn and admonish us. Xu Qian'an glanced at him. Obviously, this doesn't work. Nicholas Song didn't refute anything. Pointing to the front, he said that you are now testing and refining your combat power. There is no need to test. Let's test your intelligence first. A stick of incense and time. Guess which box has something in it and you pass. You can pick one of them to ask, but only one question can be asked, and only one of them will tell the truth. Zhu Guangxiao reminded that this problem is difficult. Think about it. Song Tingfeng was found, although Wei Gong said that it was just a small game. But there are very few people who can guess correctly. I realized it in hindsight, but the time has passed for a stick of incense. It is said that there are only adults with golden gongs. Only then can we understand this problem in the 20th century. Xu Qian'an was speechless. This kind of simple logic problem. I don't know how many I have gnawed in my last life. The test begins. Sure, Li Yuan ordered a cedar on the side. Xu Qian stepped forward with a smile. Ask someone if you're him. What will you tell me? The man straightened up. There was nothing in the opening. Xu Qian stretched out his hand and pressed the brocade box in the hand of the official on the right. It's in this brocade box. Nicholas Song looked at his companion with facial paralysis and surprise. How long did he take? Zhu Guanxiao's tone was a little depressed. It's not the kung fu of the ape. He only used 12 breaths. Nicholas Song sighed in his heart. It seems that he can solve the tax and silver case. It's not that a blind cat touches a dead mouse. Nicholas Song led him to the staircase. Speaking of asking, the new crown is upstairs. You just go upstairs from here and go all the way to the top floor. There are no requirements for this level. But you have to remember, go with your heart. Words that are too contrived. The rating will be lowered. Su Weifan wondered what the score was. Qualification test evaluation. There are 4 grades. They are A, B, C, D. The better the qualifications. Nature is easier to cultivate. Song Ting Feng raised his chin. I'm Yizhu Guangxiao and said in a sullen voice. I'm a big guy. Su wife played his stock silently. Then he went upstairs alone. When he came to the 2nd floor, he saw a bronze mirror hanging from the staircase directly across from him. Xu Qian looked at himself in the mirror. My heart fluttered for no reason. There's something wrong with this mirror. Xu Qian's thoughts flashed away. But soon he had distracting thoughts in his heart. Achieve peace of mind. Let go of all fame and fortune and selfish desires. He continued to walk inside. Inside is enshrined a statue of the Buddha. The Buddha's body is abundant. The treasure is solemn. Xu Qian just glanced at it simply. Then turn around and leave. Then I went upstairs leisurely. Li Yuan lifted the pen. Write the ratings on the paper spread out on the desk. The hall on the 3rd floor is dedicated to the Daoists. He was dressed in a robe, armed with a wooden sword. Xu Qian also looked at it casually. He turned and walked away. Li Yuan also put pen to paper and wrote a rating. The 4th floor is dedicated to Confucian saints. He wears the Russian mountain. Dai Ruguan. Xu Qian looked at it a few times. The rating given is, this sculpture of a saint is similar to that of Yunlu Academy. Then he left without hesitation. Li Yuan scored again. Xu Qian then went upstairs. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. Originally, the real meaning of asking COVID is to test moral character. The role of that mirror. It's about making it impossible to act against your will. Deliberately offering incense to worship. But when you think of it, Xu Qian's cold sweat came down. I didn't worship the Buddha along the way. There is no worship of the Taoist. There is no worship of saints. Doesn't this mean that he is an ungodly Buddha? Disdain the people of the 4 books and the 5 classics. But it's okay. There is also an opportunity for remedy. I thought that I must worship when I come to the 5th floor. But when he goes up to the 5th floor, here is a man in a yellow robe. He stood tall, an awe-inspiring pair of hands with a sword. As a person without a king, without a father, without a god or Buddha. If you don't copy poetry, you can write that you can lose your ears and record your ears, and you know that you are high. Mingyi abuses the heavens and is difficult to deceive. Su Weifan thought that there was still a chance to remedy. But when he saw clearly that the 5th layer was dedicated to the emperor, he froze. He wanted to force himself to worship the king, but his knees couldn't bend down. But he knows better. A man without a king, without a father, without a god or Buddha. It is not tolerated in this era. Beat the change. It was a spy guard subordinate to the emperor. He cannot be close to the 3 teachings. But one cannot be disloyal to the emperor himself. This kind of human blood. Not only will they be kicked out of the yamen, maybe he will turn over his old accounts of framing Zhou Li. To punish. But she was right. Her will would not allow her to kneel. She just stood there sweating profusely. Motionless. Li Yuan sensed something was wrong, so I hurriedly went downstairs to shake the number. Not long after, he ran up again, panting, said to Xu Qian'an, "I've already exchanged reviews with my colleagues downstairs." When Duke Wei set up a new official, he had an explanation. If someone does not bow or bow on the 5th floor in a row, that must be a heinous crime. Xu Qian was very anxious in his heart. "Brother, give me another chance." Li Yuan continued. So Wei Gong gave another chance. A separate 6th level was set up. It's just that no one has ever been to that level. Then he took Xu Qian out of the 5th floor, came to a closed room. "The 6th level of the qualification test is here." Xu Qian stared at the words engraved on the table. "Kill all the enemy prisoners and millions of soldiers." The sword at his waist is still fresh in blood. Return with a golden cocoon in hand. The Manchu civil and military did not dare to speak. Su Qi thought with peace of mind. What is this old Wei Tu doing here with this poem? Do you want to be with me? Do Shi, however, quickly dismissed the idea. The poem on the pillar downstairs, and this one. It should all be from the hands of Wei Gong. Both poems contain loyalty to the country, the meaning of coercing officials. Come to think of it, Su Qian was taken aback. The poem is here. It's for empathy. If the heinous man who has no army or no division, really bad temperament, in the contemplation of the mind, he couldn't fight his own heart, forcibly writing empathetic poems. On the contrary, it shows that he still has precious virtues. Wei Yuan is willing to give another chance. Su Qian said loudly. Pen and ink waiting. Li Yuan immediately presented pen and ink. Su Qian took the pen. There is a groan in my heart, although there is no king in my heart. He also disdains to worship God and Buddha, but an out-and-out materialist. I am not a heinous person. I have righteousness in my heart. There are principles under your feet. I've never eaten the people. He has never relied on his identity to extort money. Even if this is the social norm, you have to empathize. I'll write a poem. As you wish. Su Weifan Lobi at this moment. There is no obstacle in the heart. Written in his ugly handwriting. Loss of ears and deaf ears. Knowing that the sky is difficult to deceive. Li Yuan looked at the 4 sentences on the paper in a trance. He took the rice paper. The questioning of the new official is over. Adults defend themselves. Just before the results are out. Don't leave the yamen. The qualifications of every watchman. All need to be ruled by Wei Gong personally. The villain will send it to Wei Gong. And then, he left the level almost as a run. After waiting for someone to leave, Su Qian felt like he had collapsed. After holding on to the wooden platform for a moment, I also went downstairs. Song Tingfeng smiled and ran up to ask how many times did you kneel. Su Qian wanted to cry without tears. I just want to find a place to rest now. Nicholas Song quipped. I'll give you another tick, girl. Knock on the shoulder and rub the leg. Su Qian smiled and nodded. Then go to the church division and ask for Fuxiang flowers. Kuei Song Tingfeng gave him a blank look. I had this dream when I was younger. Beat the yamen. The top floor of the Curiosity Building. Nangong Chinro sighed with emotion. The weather outside is really good. See the scenery from here. It's no more fun than when you hide indoors and read a book. Guarantee for Gongdan. There are fewer and fewer books to read. I've recently heard that Si Tianjian has an extra blue book. It records the nature of all things in heaven and earth. I'm curious. Yang Yin will be the day of His Majesty's ancestor worship in another 10 years. Inform down. Intensify patrols in the inner city. Reduce trade in the inner city. Yang Yin nodded. Nangong Chinro asked her father-in-law. You really don't plan to ask for the position of the head of the household department. Install your own people. Wei Gong still said with a salty face. This is a necessary concession. Then, the clerk came in with Su Qian's information. Wei Gong. At this time, the qualification test results and household registration of the new causeway. Please be clear. Wei Gong took a look. The opening is soft. When you first answered the question, you used a few departments. Nangong Qianro raised her chin and said, 15 shi. Yang Yin is 19 shi. Wei Gong said with a smile. This new gong is 12 shi. Nangong Qianro proudly gave a good evaluation. Yang Yin said lightly that he could solve the tax and silver case in a short period of time. It's not surprising to have this intelligence. Wei Gong went on to say that the officials who were holding the peace were stunned for about 5 breaths. Nangong Qianro blew up directly. That's impossible. And Yang Yin, who has always been calm, is not calm at the moment. Other words, there is only 7 breaths of time to think. What a sharp mind. Yang Yin walked in front of Duke Wei Dao Dao. Give it to me. Each golden gong is in charge of 7 prostitutes. Li Yuchun is Xu Qian'an und Yang Yan. In this way, he became a person under Yang Yin and Jin Luo. Nangong Qianro said disdainfully. That kid, it's the kid who spoke wildly at the entrance of the stargazing tower that day. Wei Gong smiled and said that this person was recommended by the eldest princess. Although it is refining, strive for the pinnacle. But I see that his mind is alive. He's a man who can do things. He was allowed to join the watchmen. Just at this time, the cold glint in Wei Yuan's eyes flashed. Nangong Qianro noticed something unusual. Ask your father-in-law. What happened to you? But when he saw what Wei Yuan was holding in his hand, Xu Qian's evaluation, he was also taken aback. The new crown walked to the 5th floor in one breath. It's a crazier boy than me. What to do with the father-in-law? Wei Yuan directly pulled out the paper at the bottom. The paper is written in ugly font. Ursula Road knows that it is high. On the next thing, heaven is hard to deceive. Wei Yuan's pupils. The book emperor stared at the 2 paragraphs with a fixed gaze. I didn't speak for a long time. Nangong Qianro disdained Daowa. Ursula Road knows that it is high. Doesn't he also eat official meals? This kid is really arrogant. Wei Yuan said lightly, waiting for the future to one day. The little gong rose to the golden gong. Argue with him yourself. Nangong Qianro was slightly surprised. The father-in-law felt that the kid would be able to become a meridian in the future. Wei Yuan smiled and said that the 3 religions have their own rules. Warlocks are dragged down by the luck of the world. The same goes for witch bones. In the world, only Takefu is the purest. Although I hate the warrior to commit all the offenses with all his might. But I have to admit it, the more rebellious the warrior, the more courageous you are. There is no respect and no fear in the heart. To dare to turn things upside down. Unruly and untamed as a martial artist. Mind the world as a hero. The great man of chivalry. For the country and the people. After speaking, he was on Xu Qian's evaluation. The word Jiashang was written. Since the establishment of the Watchmen, there are only a handful of people who have received this evaluation. Somewhere in a secret room for the Watchmen, Li Yuchen pointed to the barrel and said, stripped naked. Sitting in, Xu Qian suppressed the excitement in his heart. It's finally time to step into the qi refining realm. Li Yuchen asked, you haven't broken your body, are you? Xu Qian nodded. Rhetorical question. You are the divine refining mirror. Behind the divine refining mirror is copper skin and iron bones, right? The name is not good. Why not call it a diamond mirror? Li Yuchen sighed and said that the 3 products of Buddhism are called King Kong. Xu Qian was stunned. Then ask about the many cultivation systems in the world. But which one is the strongest? Li Yuchen gave him a blank look. They all consider themselves to be the strongest. Xu Qian understands in seconds. But there is one consensus among all systems in the world. That's the coarsest dancer. The top must not be on the table. Because Takeo only has strange powers. But there is no divine will, right? Li Yuchen said lightly. And that's just the surface. There's an even bigger secret here. It involves the secrets of the online practice system. Li Yuqian asked in your cognition. Etiquette is not the limit of the system. Xu Qian'an wondered if it wasn't it. Li Yuqian shook his head. Not exactly. The grades of the major cultivation systems were originally vague. There are no such clear standards. Until the old age of the saint. Divide the world's cultivation system into 9 grades. And then it has been used ever since. But the saint did not put himself in the ranks. Except for the saints. There are also 4 outside the grade. They are the god of Ceres, the god of witches, and the Taoist and the Buddha. They are known as invincible. Immortality and immortality. Now Xu Qian'an understood. Then I asked, I heard that the saint only lived to be 82 years old. According to the head-to-head version, he should live forever. So there's no exaggeration in this. Li Yuqian couldn't answer a little. Other systems have the existence of beyond grades. But Takeo didn't. A martial artist is the sin of the world. Su Qi was relieved. So everyone thinks that Takefu is a crude system. But he did notice a problem. No, there are no warlocks in Tianjin. Li Yuqian nodded. But there's no denying it. Warlocks are the most contributing of all systems. This knowledge point, Xu Qian'an knows. Warlock 9 pins. It is the rejuvenation of the doctor's hand. Save lives. Warlock 7 pins. It's a feng shui master. Participate in the terrain. Cemetery objects were selected for the common people and the princes and nobles. Quality home to make outstanding contributions. Warlock 6 pins. Alchemists greatly contributed to the development of society. It meets the material needs of the people. Among them, Song Qing is one of the best. He worked hard for the cause of teaching. Furthermore, Tianjin's warlock was responsible for updating and formulating the yellow calendar. Compared to other systems, the warlock is simply an example for the country and the people. At this time, Xu Qian'an frowned. My body suddenly started to hurt. Li Yuqian said lightly that it hurts. Washing semen and marrow. Another stick of incense. You'll feel like you're being slashed by 1,000 cuts. That is when I will open the gates of heaven for you. Xu Qian'an nodded. Our Emperor, Your Majesty. For more than 20 years, he has devoted himself to cultivation. It's for immortality. Today, the saint has enshrined a character Dao Gu as a national teacher. But he has been contemplating the Tao for more than 20 years. This is something that the whole country knows. There are even down-and-out literati. Wrote about the misanthropy of His Majesty the Emperor and the stunning Dao Gu. I know you don't like that, so I'll skip this paragraph. Xu Qian'an continued. Although Takeo does not have a transcendent existence, but it should be able to prolong life. Why chase ethereal immortality? Li Yuqian asked rhetorically how long it took you to practice. 17 years is a bit slower. Children of a family with sufficient resources. At the age of 16, you can refine the peak. Take into account the issue of physical development. 15 years old is the limit. But even those children of the family, it may not be possible to successfully step into the wonderland of alchemy. Because in addition to the perseverance of playing the Olympics every day, in front of them is also the level of beauty. The more bells ring the keystone, the easier it is to fall into beauty. And the alchemy mirror is only the beginning of the martial arts system. How difficult it is to reach the high-quality realm and prolong life. Xu Qian'an looked like I understood. I thought about the incense in my heart. The girl must have scolded me sooner or later, and I was not as good as a beast. I'll tell him tonight what a whip is. Lost suddenly. Xu Qian'an's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. The pain was faster than he could endure. Li Yuqian looked indifferent. It's almost time to go. The effect of the medicated bath is to stimulate your body. Awaken the sleeping opportunity. It is very difficult to open the gates of heaven. I'm a good qualification. You only need to move the trigger in your body for 3 weeks. You'll be able to find a sense of engagement for yourself. From then on, both inside and outside. The worse the qualification. The more the gas engine is running, the more often it is running. and the limit for a normal person is 9 Sundays. If you can't find yourself on the 8th Sunday, then you are not suitable for the path of the 5 husbands. The golden light in Li Yuchen's hands flashed. Staring at Xu Qian, I am looking forward to your qualifications. Then he pressed his hand on Xu Qian's head. Xu Qian felt a warm current pour from the top of the head into the gallbladder acupoint, wander around the limbs and hundreds of corpses. After walking for a week, self-agitating starter. Get rid of the escort. I flew solo. Li Yuchen was slightly surprised. It's just a week of operation, and you can find your own cheetah. The same is true for Xu Qian. It seems like a pretty simple one. Li Yuchen was speechless. You run it yourself for a few weeks, try it. I'll look at the situation. Then Xu Qian felt it. There's a new force running around in my body. Wait until a week of running. Xu Qian stretched comfortably. But the result was that the gas engine was accidentally released. Knocked out the windows. This is a divine sound that only exists in the early stage of Qi training. Li Yuchen was shocked. This little brother is a bit perverted. He said to Xu Qian, you continue to run Zhodiyan. Carrying is a powerful way to cultivate. At the same time, we must not relax the polishing of the body. After saying that, he went out. At this moment, his heart was shocked. I have met a peerless genius. Yes, his qualification test is over. I'll go and ask Wei how many people are there. If it is above, maybe you can get promoted to the first class. The first class is a golden gong. Qualifications: he will become the target of the key training of the watchman. But he has not experienced the test of combat strength. The above is not possible. It's thinking too much about yourself. The 7th floor of the Haoqi building. Li Yuchen gave up. I've seen Wei Gong. Wei Yuan laughed. Speaking of you, congratulations on your luck with the talent. A worry flashed in Li Yuchen's heart. This should refer to Xu Qian. Duke Wei praised him so much. But I haven't put the thing about running a week yet. Tell him. But he still said respectfully. The villain wants to know Xu Qian's rating. By the way, I reported a small matter to Wei Gongyu. Duke Wei took out Xu Qian's commentary and showed it to him. Then he said softly, you take him under your command. You really should know his rating. But don't overthink it. Don't worry too much about it. It's good to have a normal heart. Of course, don't spread it out all over the place. Can wait for Li Yuchen to see the word Jiashang. Still scared and jumped. He has been on an errand in the Gingren organization for more than 10 years. I've never seen anything commented on by Jiashang. Even if it's a golden gong qualification. It's just fake. Xu Qian is in the alchemy realm. The combat power level is not eligible for the test. Other words, he relied on only 2 tests. I got a fake qualification evaluation. Wei Gongdan said, the gas is tight-lipped like a bottle. What do you have to tell me? Xu Qian also has times when he wants to cry without tears. Just the first day of work. I encountered hard stubble. Wei Yuan took a sip of tea. Said lightly, do you have anything else to report? Li Yuchen let out a breath. Dao, I have opened the door of heaven for Xu Qian. According to the rules, he received 400 taels. Wei Yuan said lightly, go back. Talents with fake qualifications have resources tilted. If you open the gate of heaven, you will have to charge a fee. What's the point of being barren? Li Yuchen nodded. Wei Yuan glanced at him, laughing at how talented he is. A few weeks of looking for the spirit. Li Yuchen bowed respectfully. Then the allowed voices said for a week. Nangong Qianro immediately exploded. Looked at Li Yuchen in disbelief. Even Yang Yan's eternal paralyzed face. There was also a rare look of shock. And Wei Yuan, who has always been elegant and gentle, was also in a trance. Then, Chen Shang, you go down. The 3 of them watched Li Yuchen leave like this. No one spoke. After a long time, Yang Yin looked at Wei Gong. Do you need special attention? Wei Yuan shook his head, and there was no need to pull out the seedlings to help them. Let's watch. Then he looked at Nangong Qianro. Said that you are not much different in age from him. He can't compare to you now. I can't say for sure. Nangong Chinro nodded helplessly. Li Yuchen came out of the curiosity building. Along the way, I met a few silver luo. Masterly laughed like this. Li Yuchen subconsciously touched his face. I found that the corners of my mouth were almost cracked to the base of my ears. So he waved his hand and said the little thing. On the other side, Xu Qian'an was visibly aware. The benefits of the operation of the qi machine to the body. Let the cells become more active. Let the spirit be more and more vigorous. Physique and strength are skyrocketing in a state of euphoria. And this state continues. He felt like he could hit 10, but he also found out. The second uncle didn't take it seriously at all when he was talking to him before. If only he had done his best. I'm afraid I'll die on the spot. In the inner hall of Su's house. Since Xu Qian'an was taken away, the family got together to discuss what to do. Just looking at Lin Yu's anxious look. Just know that they haven't thought of any good way. The aunt scolded her son irritably. Don't walk around. The shaking gave me a headache. Then he looked at Su Pingxi. It's better for you to run and run than to sit dry. Xu Qian'an said helplessly. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter if you run. Now even beating people. I don't know the purpose of taking away the eldest brother. The aunt scolded the little rabbit cub. You know how to cause trouble. You know how to cause trouble. At this time, Lao Zhang of the door shop hurriedly ran in, and the old man. Dalang asked people to come back with words. Said that he had become a watchman. I'm not going home tonight. The family was a little dazed at the moment. Xu Qian'an became a changer. Xu Qian'an's office in Yamen. I got a piece of clothing, a waistcard, a gong, and a standard long knife. Song Tingfeng pointed to the gong on Xu Qian'an's chest, laughing at this gong. It is a standard magic weapon that belongs exclusively to the watchman. It serves two purposes. One is tied to the chest. It can be used as a shield. Hold on to the vital points. It can resist the power blow of the God-refining mirror master. The second is to strike the gong surface. The concussive sound waves can shake the spirit of the enemy. It can have negative effects such as dizziness and headaches. Sounds so average. Su Qi's heart moved, and Song Qing sent him a heart guard. However, it can resist the 3 attacks of the God-refining mirror master. Copper skin and iron bones once. Isn't this an enhanced version of the gong? Xu Qian asked. This is produced by C. Tianjian. Nicholas Song nodded, of course. Magic weapons can only be refined by C. Tianjian's 4-rank array master. You're going to be here on time tomorrow. Say you'll follow us in the future. The minimum number of people in the Watchman squad is 2. Up to 4 people. Defend different areas of the capital. It is usually rotated every 3 days. Each rotation is a random assignment of regions. At this time, a clerk hurriedly came over and said, Lord Song. Master Zhu, Li Yinggong summoned. Li Yuchen's office is called Chunfeng Hall. Su Weifan glanced inside the hall. It's clean and smell-free. The texts are neatly arranged. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. Brother Chun is such a delicate old man. Li Yuchen pushed a file to the table. There are traces of demon fog in Daoingshan and Taikang County. Ate a lot of people. You go for a run. Find out if the demon fog realm is not high. Kill on the spot. The people of the 6 doors of the government will cooperate with you. The handler was already waiting outside the yamen. Xu Qian, you also go and gain some experience. Didn't you fail to do the combat power test? That's a real fight. Xu Qian wanted to cry. Is he a European emperor or a non-chief? This kind of thing happened as soon as I took office. There are 2 Fuwa counties in the capital, Taikang and Chang'an. There is a big yellow mountain in the north of Taikang County. The main peak is more than 1,000 meters high. Mountains stretch across the country. The stone base is rich in limestone, feeding hundreds of gray foxes in the surrounding area. Ashwagandha are artisans who collect lime. Starts in the middle of the year. The rivers in the Great Yellow Mountain area have produced a monster. He often goes ashore to devour living people. There have been a lot of gray households that have died in the mouths of monsters. Criminal investigation veteran Xu Qian'an was a little puzzled after reading the file. That's gone. Lack of details. This should be the case that was just reported. Therefore, they need to investigate and improve the file. At this time, Li Yuchen glared at Xu Qian'an and said that Xu Ningyan was equipped with a knife. It's only 2 inches up. The position of the gong tai is not correct enough. Tilde an inch to the left. Xu Qi is relieved to slander the neuropathy in the abdomen. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is in the advanced stage, but it's still hard on the mouth. Walk out of the Spring Breeze Hall. Just cross the threshold. Xu Qian suddenly felt a pimple under his feet. It's a damn familiar feeling. Naturally, he lowered his head and picked it up. The silver was found to be heavier than ever. Inside the hall, Li Yuchen took out the money bag that was in the box. He frowned sharply. I found that I had lost 3 pieces of silver. 3 people were outside the yamen of the watchman. I saw Jin Zhaofu's catch. There are also 3 people. The leader was a woman. His name is Lu Qing. 6 people rode in a horse-drawn carriage. It's just that the air is filled with the smell of embarrassment. Xu Qian glanced at them secretly. It was found that they were a qi refining purifier, a lineup of 2 alchemy nets. And Lu Qing was also looking at Xu Qian. He recognized Xu Qian. It is because the tax and silver case was also handled by the Zhao mansion at the beginning. Lu Qing felt that the person in front of him was quite a lot. Has the ability to persuade Lord Fu Yin many times on his own. Recruit him to serve in the government. Didn't expect Xu Qian to become a fighter. Speaking of which, Xu Qian didn't know until now. Why was the tax and silver case not transferred to the criminal department? Instead, the government and watchmen cooperated to handle the case. Because Zhou Shilang of the criminal department and the household department frowned. There are fellow parties. These details have only now become apparent. At this time, Nicholas Song said the content of the dossier was simple, and there are a lot of details that are not clear. The case was taken over by your government first. Let's talk to each other. Lu Qing nodded and said, the monster appeared in June and July. In the beginning, the local profligacy was often missing. When the family is looking for it, the monster's paw prints and blood stains were found near the river. After that, one after another, the gray households disappeared. There are also more and more paw prints on the banks of the river. The local village chief gathered the gray households, cast a net in the river. I'm going to hunt down monsters. But it didn't work out. Fishing nets can be easily bitten. Su Qi said with peace of mind, this is an amphibian monster. Song Tingfeng asked with a frown, I am puzzled. Why is the incident of June and July only on the list now? Lu Qing said lightly that the monster only devoured the gray fox of Jingshan. There was no attack on the village. So at first, Taikang County Ling didn't care. Until more and more people die. Only then did the catchers be sent to join forces with the gray fox to hunt and kill monsters. But nothing came of it. As the reconnaissance approaches, not only did he not deal with the case, instead he planned to take it down. The ash households did not dare to go up the mountain to burn ashes. But taxes still have to be paid. There's really no way. He avoided the river and took a long detour into the mountains. But it turned out to be an accident. The more than 20 people who went into the mountain to burn ashes never returned. There is really no way to do it in the vicinity. I sued the government. Su asked his wife, do you have a map of Dawangshan and nearby villages? Lu Qing nodded, considering that the realm of monsters was unknown. We're going to do our own first. No local splurge. So, as not to be able to take care of the accident. Su Qian took the map. Unfold slowly. This is a fish survey map of the Dahuang Mountains. After a moment of careful viewing, Su Qian said, I have a guess. There was a pattern in his attacks on the people. Or rather, there is a strong sense of purpose. This may not be a simple monster rebellion. At first, He just devoured the gray fox near the river. Then the scope began to expand. It radiates outward from both sides of the river, until the pure mountain is swallowed and restored. It's not just for predation. First of all, the river of Daoists stretches for hundreds of miles. There is no shortage of fish and shrimp in Hanoi. The choice of food for the beast is determined by the environment, and not to their own taste. If there is no shortage of food around, he's not going to go any further. In order to eat a bite good, he went into the mountains to hunt and eat the people. Secondly, if he is a wise monster, and he just likes to eat people, then he would not have turned a blind eye to the nearby villages. But he didn't. He only devoured the squandering that entered the vicinity of the Great Yellow Mountain. According to behavioral psychological analysis, it's a conscious drive. Everyone was shocked. Lu Qing pondered. Could it be that there is something in the Great Yellow Mountain that he cares about? A group of people soon came to the river that flowed through the foot of the Great Yellow Mountain. Xu Qian'an looked at the ground, said that these are the footprints of monsters. At this time, Lu Qing stretched out an explosive in front of Xu Qian'an. For the three of you. Xu Qian'an took it. Lu Qing pointed to the front and said that it was centered on paw prints. Let's go nasty and drop explosives packets. You go upstream. See if you can force the drug out of the river. The Daebong dynasty was very strict in the management of gunpowder. Not only the recipe is kept secret, even the materials needed to make gunpowder. It was also monopolized by the imperial court, even if it is a fast hand such as a watchman and a young man. I only know a little about the composition of gunpowder. It's still a show. Both sides will be fried. The medicine bag ignited and threw into the river. A dull explosion sounded. Immediately, the river splashed several feet high. A group of people on the shore were waiting for them. It seems that as soon as the monster appears, they will not hesitate to come forward and fight. But after a long time, the water calmed down again. The monster I wanted to see didn't appear. Xu Qian sighed. It would be nice if there was a warlock from Xitianjian to help. You can lock the location of the monster at once. Nicholas Song pouted. The warlocks of the Daoists heavenly sword are better than us. The nobler are only under the command of the holy. Don't expect to be able to take care of them in this kind of small case. Xu Qian wanted to laugh when he thought of the group of white clothes. The warlock of Xitianjian is noble. How I don't think. After the rendezvous of the two sides, Song Tingfeng pointed to the mountain forest road in front of him. He's not going to come out. My suggestion is to go into the mountains and have a look. Xu Qian added. First, check the area where the gray farmers collect the limestone. Not long after, they arrived at the main peak of Dahuang Mountain, the main collection area of the gray household. Song Tingfeng looked at Lu Qing. We have been searching for so long. Not a single thing of value was found. If the monster does not go out of the water to search the mountains, there is not enough manpower. What do you suggest for fish catchers? At this time, Xu Qian said to choose one person. Go to the village chief of a nearby village. The rest are left here. If there is no harvest, I'm in charge of going to the heavenly prison to find the warlock. The three were speechless. Big brother, don't just drink. Eat some food, and you won't get drunk like this. The warlocks of the heavenly prison will listen to you. After a long time, the capture of Jingzhou Mansion returned with an old man. This old man is the village chief of Hegu village outside Dahuang Mountain. When he came up, he said in an excited tone, You don't come again. The people in the village couldn't open the pot. Lu Qing stared at him. The look of majesty is dignified, and the official asks you. In the end, more than 10 people who entered the mountain died. The village chief pointed to the south of the mountains. It is entered from the opposite direction of the river. Nicholas Song's heart moved. There is also a kiln for burning ash on the side. The village chief hurriedly waved his hand and said, There are Taoist priests. There just isn't this side to hide. Lu Qingchun ascended the road and took us there. Half an hour later, the group came to the foot of a mountain. Xu Qian suggested going into the kiln to have a look. A few people took local materials. Torches were lit. Enter the earthen kiln cautiously. Walking and walking. Xu Qian and the others realized that something was wrong. Where is this kiln? It is clearly a tunnel dug by the population. Song Tingfeng sighed. The kiln doesn't need to be dug so deep. It's clearly digging something. There are no traces of smoke and fire on the stone walls. Lu Qin glared at the village chief and asked what was going on. The village chief was also a little confused. Said he didn't know. Xu Qian held a torch. Observe the white or on the ground. It doesn't seem to be lime eye. Xu Qian pinched it gently. The white or was crumpled into powder by him. He held a torch. Sprinkle the powder onto the flame. The next moment, the torches burst into flames. Bright yellow with a dull purple tinge. Everyone was taken aback by Xu Qian's operation. Lu Qin just wanted to open his mouth to blame. Saw Xu Qian pinching the powder in his hand. The pupil shrank slightly and said that this is eclipse. Nicholas Song frowned. What is digestion? Xu Qian said loudly. He was the main material for making gunpowder. Nicholas Song heard this. I was in place. Gunpowder is Taiho's secretary. One of the means to deter the countries of the four seas. But all formulations and materials related to gunpowder. Dafeng is very strictly controlled. Saltpeter was discovered in Daoists, and there are traces of mining. Song Tingfeng's face was extremely serious. Now I have to go back to the capital immediately and report the matter. Lu Qin glared at the village chief. The command road was tied up and taken away. The village chief knelt on the ground and shouted that he had been wronged. Xu Qian thought that the village chief should not know. Otherwise, it wouldn't have brought us here. So the reason for the recovery of drug expulsion is disappearing madness. Xu Qian walked while thinking. Suddenly, Lu Qin shouted loudly to Xu Qian. Watch out when Xu Qian is combing through various thoughts. A whirling sound broke through the air. He didn't have time to respond. Xu Qian felt like he had been hit head-on by a high-speed train. The force of the impact sent him flying. But fortunately, there is a gong grid on the chest. Blocked the fatal blow. Otherwise, this will already be the finale. Xu Qian's momentum is unabated. It flew out like a kite with only a broken string. A large area of forest along the way was shoveled by Xu Qian. Life and death are unknown at the moment. The crowd didn't have time to react. Xu Qian disappeared from view. Zhu Guangxiao kicked the village chief into the grotto with a leg sweep. Song Tingfeng drew his knife and followed He Dao to roll in. Don't come out. The village chief also knows each other. No, it's dangerous right now. So hide tightly inside. On a boulder on the side of the grotto. Lying on his stomach was a monster 2 feet long. The body is covered with heavy nail plates. He has sharp horns on his forehead. The amber pupils shimmered with a cold, brutal light. The next moment, a dark shadow that is almost impossible to catch with the naked eye catapulted out, hit Nicholas Song directly. Luckily, his body's reaction outweighed his brain. An instinctive backward dodged a heart-piercing blow. Lu Qin drew his broken knife and jumped up. He struck the monster's tongue with a blow. Only then did I realize that the monster's tongue was covered with scales. The monster seemed to feel the pain. Retract the limbs of the long snake. Standing on a boulder with a huge body, condescending to look down on everyone. His cheeks were open. The bloody mouth let out a heavy roar. Nicholas Song and the others were in a trance for an instant. It felt like someone had hit a mallet on the back of the head. That's when they understood. The monster in front of him has the strength to refine nerves. Nicholas Song was uncomfortable. He tapped the gong. The next moment, the loud sound of the gong sounded. It's like the evening drum and the morning bell canceling out the sound. After the waves got out of a trance. Respond now. Lu Qin instructed 2 colleagues. You are in the aid of your crossbows. Attack his eyes, jaw, and mouth. These are relatively soft places. Song Ting Feng took off the gong and threw it to Zhu Guangxiao. You're in charge of frontal containment. Be careful yourself. He was secretly anxious. The gong can resist the blow of the alchemy god with all his might. But just now the monster was under Su Ningyin's defenselessness. The sneak attack was successful. Now, Su Ningyin may have been shattered by Yu Li's heart. The unlucky kid seems to have retired as soon as he got to work. Nicholas' song restrained his emotions. Take off the knife and run wildly. Attack monsters from the side. The Demon Hun member Deng Si wanted to turn around and stick out his tongue. Zhu Guangxiao took the first step to tap Luo Mian, shock the spirit of the monster, and instill the blade at the same time. In the deep roar, he showed his strong sword energy. The arc-shaped knife Qi swept out. The monsters are huge and impossible to dodge. He kept his head down. Resist knife gas with a hard forehead. Then flick your tail. It's like you have eyes on your back. Accurately pumped Nicholas' song.